Brento is dealing with his internet issues because of circumstances that's beyond his control. So this is a totally, I really actually feel bad because I was mad earlier, but now like, no, this is a legitimate reason. So we're going to go ahead with introductions. So we're going to start from the top all the way down. So let's start off with Rafiq. Rafiq, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody, you know, just a little bit about yourself, and we're going to go on down to the line.
Greetings, world. My name is Rafiq, and I'm not a YouTuber. You can find me on Twitch or Instagram. I'll be representing Team Conservative.
All right. And hey, we're going to go to Archer. Y'all don't know this, but me and Archer have been talking a lot on Discord. It's like he's my little student and everything like that. I actually enjoy talking to him because he's and actually Torin, you would enjoy talking to him too, because he's more philosophical, you know. And so me, not so much. So when he comes from that perspective, I end up learning indirectly from him. So Archer, go ahead and shout yourself out and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I stream on Twitch, Archer CA.
Ooh, boy.
Did a little name change, so
okay.
Archer CA. I talk politics, obviously. I'm a registered Republican, but I consider myself to be a realist. Follow the greatest Italian who ever existed, Machiavelli, and Socrates, Plato. I like talking philosophy as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Jupiter, can you hear us, or what's are you having any problems? He can't hear us. Hold on, let me help that out. Hold on a second.
Wave if you can hear us. No? Okay.
Hold on. Can you hear?
No.
He can't hear? Hold on.
We can't hear you.
Yeah, we can't hear. Okay, I'm gonna turn you. Hold on. I'm gonna turn your mic on Discord. I mean, on Whereby. Turn your mic on Whereby. I mean, yeah, on the Whereby. You see where it says? I mean, there you go. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
You gotta have headphones.
I had them in. I tried. Hold on. Hear me now?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me what happened? We walked through this early. Oh, you know what? We did it on your phone. That's probably why. We shouldn't have done it, never done it on your phone. Go ahead and talk right now, Jupiter.
Maybe let somebody else go while he's
yeah. Last username. Go ahead and by the way, last username, I love the hair. What are you doing with it? You trying to grow it out like Dario or something?
I'm on the waiting list to get it cut. That's the only thing. But if you like it, then hey, great.
Wait a minute. You can't get your hair cut in Canada?
Still illegal. Or I think they just made it legal, and now there's like a huge waiting list to get it cut. So.
Oh my gosh. Oh wow. Okay. Well, no, I'm digging it. I like it.
Justin does not want people getting their haircut.
All right. Well, tell everybody about yourself and where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm last_username. I stream on Twitch quite often. I'm representing the libertarians, I guess. Mm-hmm. And you can find out about that on my channel and all sorts of other nifty stuff. And good to be here.
All right, cool. And next we have Scuff Dario. Dario, go ahead and give yourself a shout out.
Hello, everybody. My name is Scuff Dario on Twitch and on Twitter and on YouTube. I mostly talk about politics. Debating is most of my content. I talk to people, discuss various issues, both philosophical, political, economical, environmental. I talk about all of these things, and I try and sort of broaden my horizon by going on panel shows with a bunch of people who hopefully disagree with me one way or another. I would consider myself probably very far left, probably further left than most of your audience is used to. I'm definitely a socialist. I would consider myself an anarchist as well. So I'll definitely be bringing some perspectives from there tonight. And hopefully we'll have an interesting discussion.
All right. And next we have Grimace. Grimace, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and shout out your channel.
Sure. Twitch.tv/AlGurmis, spelled exactly how it is on your screen right now. I'm Twitch's #1 plant political streamer. And Tree, I was on a roundtable last night with some unmentionables, and we got into the whole discussion of the party switch, which all of them are on your side. That
wait. You go there, but you don't come to me. I had said, listen, when you're ready to have that debate, let me know. So you go ahead and do that without, coming to me first. What's up with that?
No, I agree, because they weren't prepared to have the conversation at all, because I started off with this position and it eventually got to the beginning of the Republican Party, which is during the Civil War. And you would be really surprised how many of these Republicans or Party of Lincolnites really know a lot about like the Confederate generals and really have like a high standing in their mind for the opposition in that case. The original CHAZ, right? The original autonomous zone, the Confederacy. It was amazing to me that all these modern day Republicans were just they didn't seem to be on the side of the federal government and Abraham Lincoln back then. Which I know is not your position, right? So that's what I'm saying. That it was really weird that they had like this really high standing for these generals. Yeah.
You're going to have to talk to me about this afterwards, because I'm half paying attention to you, but I'm also helping out Jupiter. So.
What I was trying to get to, I think a real discussion about this could only come from you. I don't know if those are the best people to debate over this topic.
Okay, hold on. All right, hold on, Jupiter. If you can hear me, hold on a second. Hey, Brento, glad you're here. Who? We're missing one person. If you can hear me, what happened to your? Do you have earbuds or headphones? If you don't, this is what we can do. Oh, okay, you can hear. Okay, so you can hear me, but we can't hear you. Hold on, let me try something. Hold on. Turn on.
Right there.
Maybe you can just communicate with sign language, Jupiter, and we can just like look at you and.
Hold on, Jupiter. Turn on your.
Well, I think he has. Is that a whiteboard or a mirror?
Yeah.
No, we're gonna make it work. Turn on.
Whiteboard would be good.
Turn on your mic on where your webcam is. I asked.
Oh wait, he found.
Okay, he found it. Okay, great. Okay,
That'll
great.
do it.
Who? What happened? Somebody. Oh, Rafiq is gone. Okay, Rafiq had Rafiq's camera.
No, I muted myself.
Okay, no, you're gone out of whereby.
Oh, darn it.
Yeah,
Click
just
the little webcam.
Okay, so it's my webcam. I don't.
Yeah, your webcam is gone.
Yeah, that's weird.
Okay.
Well, now I took it off.
All right. Looks like we're getting everything. Okay, turn. Okay, right.
Okay, am I on now?
There you go. Yes. We can hear you.
Oh, great.
Perfect. Okay, now we got to get Rafiq on. And Brento, okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm on.
My bad.
Yeah. You're on. We hear you.
I'm on.
Okay.
I'm on. Headsets on.
Hold on. Let me get to touring news. He's next. Touring news. I'm honored and actually glad to have you here participate with us. So please shout yourself out and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I mean, you and I have had a couple conversations before, and I think they've all been pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm touring news on Twitch or Twitter or YouTube. I like to talk about, I would say, probably macroeconomics, foreign policy, international relations, climate issues and such. I was a Bernie Sanders staffer for a little while and a volunteer for his campaign in a couple different states. So I guess that means that I'll be supporting the left side of the conversation this evening.
Yes, you will. Okay. And Jupiter, you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself? You're representing the Libertarians with last username.
Yeah, number one, I'm so sorry.
Hold on.
Hold
on. I'm going to turn it off. There you go. Okay, go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jupiter.
You can't hear again?
I can hear you. It's that I have this crazy echo. The problem is my headphones are picking up on.
That's because you have to, one of your browsers, close out the browser.
Oh, that's what it is. What's the whole problem? You're an angel. All right, I'm good now. No more.
Bring your mic over. Bring your mic over.
I'm schmat. Okay. Now we got to get Rafiq on camera.
Bring your mic over, Jupiter.
Now we got to get.
You hear me now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
perfect.
my camera disconnected.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
your webcam is.
Okay.
Yeah, now we got.
So I am
Go ahead, Jupiter.
Jupiter. I'm literally R-word id. That was a really bad intro. You look beautiful tonight, by the way. But
Thank
no,
you.
I am on the far libertarian right, and I basically just do podcasts. Unfortunately, I'm super rude, so I didn't really get to hear anybody's intros. And I'm going to let you guys take it from here, and I will jump in afterwards because I took up way too much time. Let's roll.
Okay, and last but not least, Brito, I'm so glad you were here. I'm sorry what happened with you. Go ahead and give your intro, please.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Brento Box. I'm conservative, right? Try and be center. I stream at Twitch, twitch.tv/BrentoBox, and I guess I'm here for the right.
Okay, all right. So let's.
I just say one last thing.
Yes.
Because I didn't know that we were plugging. We do a podcast called Caget on my channel, which is Jupiter with R Cats Gay. So that out there.
Okay, great. And by the way, everybody's link is being spammed in the chat right now. Explanation point. Well, you're seeing it now. My mods and some of the people are actually doing it right now. If you would like to see the questions and the topics that we're discussing, explanation point questions, and you'll get to go over the questions and topics and also look at the sources that the participants have had. So go ahead and let's get started. So let's start with the social questions, which is cancel culture. Cancel culture, formerly known as call-out culture, is an unofficial system of boycotting influencers, celebrities, and regular people for expressing unpopular left-leaning opinions or views on the internet. Cancel culture has been weaponized to silence, punish those with opposing views. It's been used to revoke their free speech. Below are some of the most recent examples of people and businesses being victims of cancel culture, and I have a list of them right then and there. People who support cancel culture state that shaming people for their past actions or words is a way to reform them. It's a method that disciplines them and teaches them to do better in the future. However, those who oppose cancel culture states that silencing people whenever they disagree with a group's belief give the opposite reactions. Rather than changing their minds, they are more likely to withdraw from the conversation completely, to become increasingly entrenched into their views and less willing to listen to the different point of view. In other words, they become radicalized in their beliefs. I really would like us to have a serious discussion about all of these topics that you have on your list now. This one is more important to me than anything because I have people been trying to counsel me since I came on Twitch. So I really want to hear your opinions, your sincere opinions about this, and expressing your viewpoints. So the question is cancel culture helpful or harmful? We're going to go through 2 minutes each person, and we're going to start off with Rafiq. So Rafiq, 2 minute, do not interrupt people while they're doing their 2 minute opening arguments, and then we'll go into the free form round. So go ahead and do your 2 minute opening argument right now, Rafiq.
Okay, I was outraged at the savagery and vandalism. I realized that this is all Democrat on Democratic crime. Like, no one gives a damn about black lives killed by black on black. Why should I care about Democrat monuments being removed by the Democrats, people on the left? Those statues, those Confederate statues, were Dixie Democrats. Democrats or Republicans try to erase bad parts of the history. Have it. Let them believe that banning offensive talk and objects will automatically make race and police corruption match away. But those of us who can set aside our emotions for rationality knows that this is not the case. But on cancel culture destroys everything great about America. Freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and most importantly, the freedom to have honest thoughts and opinions. No one's a saint, including saints. And those offended are very thin-skinned, as well as having failed to accept that people have flaws because they cannot accept the flaws within themselves. Cancel culture is neither reform nor helpful. It is silent. The silencing of thoughts, offending and the real violence of silence that the left swears they are against.
Okay, thank you. Next is Brento. Brento, what say you? 2 minutes.
Yeah, cancel culture is kind of like it's a form of Puritanism, and a lot of people know Puritanism from like the Puritans, which are like these extremely strict Christian religious people, wore like the buckles on the hats and the shoes and everything. But essentially, cancel culture, it's kind of a movement that requires enemies. It requires you to have people who are impure is sort of a strong language, but that's essentially what it is. It's always looking for something bad in other people or in yourself too, but then trying to like fix it. It's a culture that's built around fixing other people, and it kind of like it drives people to always kind of like create enemies and then ostracize them or push them out of society. But it leads to like this climate or this culture of fear where everyone is always afraid that they're going to be next, like they're going to be the next one on the chopping block. And so it's ultimately self-defeating. Ultimately, like it creates out-groups and it pushes people out, but then the in-group gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until eventually, like, the standards are just things that people can't even meet anymore. And then eventually you have to start holding people accountable for things that maybe they corrected or maybe they stood for. Like, I mean, a lot of celebrities are, constantly apologizing for things they did 30 or 40 years ago, even if they don't stand for it anymore, even if they've done good things or they've gone against it. Like you can just find a tweet or a video or anything and pull it back up, and now they have to apologize all over again, and they're pushed out. Now they're the bad guy. So no one wants to live like that. Like basically, it creates a world where sort of like no one feels safe. So yeah, I actually think any movement, political, religious, or social that engages in cancel culture too much eventually just eats itself, and that's actually the real danger of it.
Okay. Archer, your turn. What say you?
Okay, so when it comes to cancel culture, I think that there is a core argument that can be justified and that can be made. However, in its current form, I believe cancel culture is based off of a model.
Your mic is going
Yeah,
crazy.
you're roboting.
Is it really that shitty? Is it going robot?
Go ahead. You're doing good
You're
now.
fine now.
Oh, sweet. Sorry, internet here shitty.
Yeah.
So in a mob rule system, when it comes to cancel culture, I think that's absolutely abhorrent. And because I don't think there's a lot of thought put behind who we are canceling and why we are canceling them, and we're not also offering an opportunity for redemption. There has to always, I think, in a just system of what we could call cancel culture, I believe that a system of redemption needs to be allowed, because we're all human. We make mistakes. We all have shitty ideas. Not all of our ideas are complete in any sort of in any sort of function. So that's why, like, when it comes to cancel culture, so now coming into cancel culture, but I think it's just. I think there's a just argument for flat earthers, people who are presenting abhorrent and downright negligible sophistry. Selling their so-called knowledge and wisdom for a profit. I think that's abhorrent. I think that should be canceled. And yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. Jupiter. 2 minutes.
I like how when the liberal was saying, "Well, we're all human," his mic turned into a robot. No, I'm kidding.
I'm not a liberal, sir.
He's joking.
Cancel
Go ahead.
culture. I just want to
he's
say,
joking. He's joking.
I'm a jagoff.
The funny joke is that it was a conservative, so actually conservative.
No,
He was joking.
Joke.
Realist.
Okay, go ahead, Jupiter.
As we know, cancel culture doesn't exist. Just buy your own platform from Google, who won't allow you to. Cancel culture, I was going to say something else, but I would like to say abhorrent views. The reason we allow flat earthers and racists and it's the reason we allow them these views and to be in the public discourse is so we can weed out ideas that we don't like. Cancel culture, canceling those people, you're only justifying their cause and making martyrs out of it. Cancel culture is effective. I think that was the question. It is effective in two ways. It's effective in silencing your opponents, and it's not a left or right issue. Once upon a time, it was the left crying out for free speech because they didn't have it. Now it's us crying out because we don't. And the reason it's effective is because it's effective because your opponent gets silenced for the moment. You get your goal achieved. Further down the road, it's effective for your opponent because you've already given him at least some type of credibility. You're already martyring him, and love a martyr. So no, cancel culture is one of the most diabolical weapons. Right now, I have never seen in my entire life the ultra racist, brutal on both sides, flourishing so hard as they are right now. And it's because reasonable people that just had a few questions, they got silenced. And so the fringes is where everyone goes to find their information. And guess who they find on the fringes? The fringes.
Okay. All right. Last username.
So we have a relatively new way to communicate with each other. And we are currently in the process of discovering or maybe perhaps rediscovering our civility in this new medium. So this is, there's great new opportunities here. But of course, there's also great dangers. All of the stuff that happens with cancel culture reminds me a lot of, we've seen people do this before. We've seen like public executions. We've seen lynchings. Like these are things that we had to sort of socially evolve out of. And I think we're now having to do that again. And I hope we figure it out soon because we've got very serious consequences of this, like suicide rates among youth are up. And a lot of people are suggesting that is because of the cancel culture is kind of turning into this ultra amplified bullying. So it's not entirely clear. There's some complicated issues here. Like we do need to hold people accountable in some way for what they say, but what kind of process do we go through for deciding that? How do we measure the punishment? Don't overpunish people. How do we deal with forgiveness, with redemption? How do we prevent opinions from sort of spreading to all the areas of your life, your job and your marriage and everything? Should we create boundaries between those things? These are difficult questions, but I think there's no doubt that the approach we're doing now is clearly very, very dangerous, and we need to fix it.
Okay. Turing, your turn, 2 minutes.
So when you said people who support cancel culture state that shaming people for their past actions or words is a way to reform them, I would say that utilizing like shame or deep critique wouldn't exactly be cancel culture. Where cancel culture would be you're just directly kicking them out of the group and you're never willing to engage with them. So I was kind of a little bit thinking that wasn't exactly I didn't exactly agree with that frame. There was a video from Bo, the Fifth Column, who talked about we all are riding on the bus together. If you're talking about allies, I might get on the bus at one stop, Grimace might get on at another, Dario might get on at another, and we're going to ride the bus together for X amount of time. And then I might get off at one point, they might get off at another. So from my engaging with political organizing, I don't find outright canceling people to be the exact best way to go about it. Now, there are certain offenses, if you're a sexual predator, if you're, I don't know what the other ones would be, engaging in like certain activities, yes, you should be excommunicated from communities. But overall, I would say I would rather a healthy debate about the positions and a critique of the individuals and not a direct kicking out of the community.
Okay. Grimace, your turn, 2 minutes.
Sure. Like I agree with the sentiment that like cancel culture, like the purpose of it can be used correctly, but for the most part, it's not. Like I was thinking about this. It's something I've think about for, I don't know, like 4 years. And I realized that a lot of people I respect and used to get my takes from and my understanding of the political situation have been canceled. Even Senator Al Franken, for instance, we canceled him like right out the gates. And over these last 4 years, he would have been a really good tool. And this is like an example of the left defanging itself for the most part. There's other people that I like, people like Sam Harris, who got canceled a really long time ago. Richard Dawkins, Neil deGrasse Tyson. These are people like I really respect, like people like Matt Dillahunty. Even like recently, J.K. Rowling got canceled. And I think right around this time, you're going to see a turning point on people using cancel culture as a bludgeon to solve a problem. Hopefully we'll start to get better takes and we actually use this strategy. But Brento mentioned before that those who engage in cancel culture tend to eat themselves, and like I just highlighted, like the left has been eating themselves because of this. So I agree, but like we kind of seem to forget that the right now is in I know Jupiter kind of mentioned it, but the right now is also engaging in cancel culture. Right? We have the Maverick war hero John McCain. He got canceled probably initially when he denied that Obama was a Kenyan. He got canceled for that. We got Mitt Romney, who went out of his way to say what a mistake it would be to nominate Donald Trump. And then he went on to actually vote to remove him from office in the Senate. We have Senator Jeff Sessions, who used to be a pretty big Republican face. He's been put into the whole Keebler Elf category by the leader of our country. We have big, longtime Republicans that we know have been dedicated to the party, like James Comey, Robert Mueller, and the Mad Dog General Mattis. If you guys remember, all those guys have been canceled by the right. George Bush. And I'm just saying, we just canceled on the left the people who are doing this by nominating Biden. And I invite all of you to cancel the person who's canceling people on the right, Donald Trump.
All right, Dario.
Yeah, so I think I would agree with some of these things. I would agree with cancel culture. I think cancel culture is an integral part of like what we consider to be free speech. I think in a society where speech is free, as free as it can be, I think it is important to have counterforces to what people say without directly banning them for saying them. I think this is where some degree of cancel culture comes in. I think it is sort of the belief that certain opinions that go against the sort of the grain of the culture right now have social costs to them rather than like actual costs. I think that's like a good thing. I think we want democratic rule. We want people to police speech rather than the government to police speech, because some speech needs to be policed. And I think if you say something stupid, there's a backlash. It's that simple. Now, do I personally think that people go too far with cancel culture sometimes? Yes, of course, very much so. I think it's subjective, and I think it should be. I think you should decide personally what you think is acceptable, and you should criticize opinions you don't like or disagree with. I think that is like a core part of free speech. And I think some limits personally that I think should exist for like cancel culture or like canceling people or whatever. I think there should be like a statute of limitation. I think if things get too old, people should to some degree only be held accountable to like the views of like their time. I don't think you can necessarily judge somebody like 50 years ago by the standards of today. I think when people have shown an honest effort to change whatever they were canceled for in the first place, I think you should give them another chance. I think when abuse comes against private people, generally, I'm not that okay with it. Like who never intended to be public in any way, but are having their lives destroyed or whatever. But yeah, generally, though, I'd say the way speech functions right now for the mass majority of people is pretty good. I think the only big problems come with like very big figures. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now we have the free form round. Let me go ahead and get started. And let me start this off. I'm going to start it off and you guys jump in. Dario, did you just say that canceling someone's speech is free speech?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
shutting
like
people.
If a lot of...
Hold on. Did you hear so silencing someone is free speech? All right. I'm going to let y'all jump
and if
into
somebody,
that.
if somebody,
I want you, I'm not the debater here. I just wanted to make sure he said what he said. Go.
Please give me this one.
Go ahead.
Counseling
can I state
speech?
Hold on.
So
I was addressed at the beginning. I was addressed at the beginning by Grimace. I just want to point something out to Dario. When Grimace said, the right's canceling people like McCain and war hero McCain and Romney, Jeff Sessions. This is the reason why cancel culture isn't free speech. The left didn't start calling John McCain a war hero until he went with them. They were actually calling him a war criminal, bomb Iran. And on top of that, Romney, he strapped dogs to cars. He's a racist. He's got binders full of women. It's never in what he was saying about how, Al Franken. That was a good tool.
Wait a minute. Criticism isn't canceling. We're talking about canceling.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's not. Let me just finish this up.
Okay.
Franken is a really charming, funny, and good tool. People on the left realized when they canceled him, and they canceled him, realized that was a mistake. What I'm saying is the reason cancel culture is neither beneficial on the right or the left is because it's always going to be free speech on Google isn't free. They have a monopoly on it, so it's not free. So if Google overnight became alt-right, it would be shut out, and you'd have a very different idea about what free speech is.
Listen, we wouldn't care about Google, though. These are our tech companies. The people in STEM are like markedly people who are on the left and have liberal leanings. We just create a new search engine, right? And when we say free speech, from at least the legal standpoint, we're just talking about the government not interfering in people's speech, like a private company
Right wing
doing
try that with Gab and Parler and got shut down by Google and weren't allowed to advertise.
Yeah, probably. That's the consequence of having like terrible speech on your platform, right? Like Google doesn't want that kind of speach on their platform, so they're going to prevent it.
Wouldn't even let us start our own platform.
What do you mean?
Could you clarify what is terrible speech?
Like speech that is harmful and like catalyzing of violence and like brainwashing towards people that are vulnerable, like people who, for instance, belong to the Russian government, are within our social media systems, like pushing people further to the extremes. Like Google can like at least put some kind of effort towards protecting itself and its users from that kind of speech.
Jupiter, you brought up something interesting to me earlier. How you said there used to be a time when the left supported free speech, and that was when they were having a hard time getting their vocal out. And now it's it's kind of the opposite of that. And I actually wanted to try to like say that I think it's okay for individuals to cancel one another. I am not okay with a platform canceling people. So I would rather people be quote unquote canceled within their own group rather than be banned off of platforms. I was listening to a conversation between Michael Brooks and Noam Chomsky recently. And I think that they're a little bit in the camp of we should allow ideas to be out there almost without any concern of like how bad the idea would be in order to be debated against and be exposed and be pushed back against. So I guess in one way I'm okay with an individual canceling an individual. I'm not okay with a platform determining where the canceling is going to happen.
So just quickly,
I couldn't agree more. I'm for total freedom of association. Total. You can. I'm Jewish. If you told me no Jews allowed at your country club, I wouldn't even care. But the difference is an actual platform where there aren't any other country clubs, where there aren't any other places people can go to voice their opinions. Yes, if you don't want to hear my speech, fine. But back to the Parler and Gab thing, when they tried to make their own, so us horrible, harmful speech makers could go be by ourselves, they said, no, we can't allow you to do that.
Wait, how did they disallow that? Like that's how would Google stop you from creating your own community?
Easily. Gab and Parler both were shut down.
Why?
The only way
shut down
how shut down?
Gab and Parler never were able to take off. Here's why. The only real advertising engine they had was on Google.
That's not trying to start it up by yourself now, is it?
Okay, I can give some insight. Hold on. Let me give some insight on this. They were shut out by Visa. They were also put off on Apple apps. You have their apps were also banned off of Apple, also at Google. So and also they were, in addition to being shut off on the engine. Now, granted, I hear what you're saying. Like if you want to compete on Google, you shouldn't use Google, but that doesn't include Facebook. It doesn't include Apple apps and iTunes and things like that. So, and also Visa,
these are all private companies. Yeah, like we wouldn't tell like these companies that we can police what they can and can't allow on their platform, right? You conservatives aren't about that, right? We're about.
I love it when leftists talk to me about private companies.
Listen, not a leftist, just a liberal over here.
A payment processing company, I think we should look very unkindly on a payment processing company that tries to do ideological enforcement of
one payment company. Yeah, there's other payment companies, right?
Yeah,
like I think it's a norm that we should strongly discourage, right? I don't see there's no good reason that we need to. The payment companies need to do ideological policing. We shouldn't criticize them for being associated with any particular customer, and they shouldn't.
Can I ask you a question there, just real quick?
Yeah.
So what if that payment company specifically knew that like some of those payments were, let's say, used to like facilitate transactions between like terrorist groups or whatever? Would you?
Okay,
would
so
you not?
yeah,
They
let
weren't.
me-
Wait,
let me
why is that
clarify.
relevant? Wait,
Let me
why is that
clarify.
relevant?
No,
They
I'm
weren't.
asking. I'm asking him a question to
A
clarify
payment
his position.
processor shouldn't discriminate based on like views expressed. If the money's going to literally fund terrorism or crime or something that's different, then we can definitely talk.
Well, you
then-
could argue that a lot of these right-wing views do lead to some kinds of terrorism, especially like.
I think
Well,
it's
so-
not hard to make
Funding-
that.
Yeah.
Not lead to terrorism.
We could easily have
Give me a
ISIS
second.
supporters like putting up their
Yeah.
propaganda who aren't engaging in actual terrorism, right?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
right wing
Funding
what right wing
terrorist groups
ideas?
and then supporting ideas that you disagree with that then you think you could link to somebody who could potentially be like you're making logical leaps here.
Wait, do you RL familiar with the concept of stochastic terrorism, or should I?
That's a big word for them.
So
Yeah,
I love this. I love this.
Sure.
Wait, hold on.
Hey,
Before
Grimace,
you get
why
off of
don't you
this,
explain it to us, since you're the guy?
why are we
Go ahead.
talking about
Grimace,
about
please.
ideologies when we were talking about literal platforms that were banned from PayPal, Visa? They were banned from all sorts of Google advertising. This group,
I'm
what
sorry.
does this have to do with terrorism?
Wait.
Because
Can we-
This is
wait,
this
can
is
we-
what
can
people
we-
call
wait, wait,
engaging
can
in
we
a
actually-
hypothetical to test your idea. I don't know.
Can we
I don't know if
actually-
you know how this works.
Is cancel culture really like private companies like disallowing like some
Yes,
people
when they
to
have a
use their
monopoly
servers?
on speech and platforms.
Like is that
yes,
really
that's
cancel
definitely
culture?
So many
Or is
anti-free
cancel
market
culture-
conservatives. What
Or
happened?
is cancel
That's a
culture,
for sure.
or is cancel culture people coming together and deciding that some opinions they will criticize them and bully people off of platforms?
No, they won't
I
even
think
No, that's
That
not
too.
cancel culture.
That's how they do it. That's how they.
Wait.
do it.
Dario,
Yeah.
no. So
Do
hold on.
the platform-
I gotta ask.
Wait,
you,
are
hold
you
on.
part of this panel
No,
tree?
I'm not. I'm just asking you. Do you really know the definition of cancel culture? Are you just because that's why I gave a array of examples of a variety of
Yes.
cancel culture, because it does not only mean, I'm not debating, I'm just saying I just want to know if you understand, because I don't want people to jump on you and bully you and not because I adore you. I just want to make sure, did you understand what cancel culture is? I'm just asking for clarification.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I understand. I understand that there's different types
Define
of
it
what
then.
people would define as cancel culture.
That's
What
not
I'm
what you just
saying
said,
is
though.
I am saying a private company disallowing some people to use their service because they deem it unprofitable within their service. I don't necessarily think that's like cancel culture. I think
But the reason it's
generally
unprofitable
cancel
is
culture.
because there's so much public outrage. at
Yes,
these people.
exactly.
And
I think
because those people, it's consider that company
Yes.
responsible for bowing
Yes.
to their will.
And what
I
I'm
don't
saying,
think
what
that's
I'm
a good
saying
thing.
is, what I'm saying is, move it one step back. Do we inherently think it's a bad thing that people come together and decide they don't like certain views and criticize them to like the furthest extent?
I think it's a bad thing that
can?
people you like are willing to go to pretty much any length to retaliate against those views.
It's
I
not
think
about
I
criticism.
think
I
that
think we need to
How
draw.
else,
We need to
how
draw
else would you
lines. Like, there
police
are
views?
certain
How else
things-
would you police views?
Wait a minute. It's not
by criticizing?
why
not
do
that it's
views
a
need to be
group
policed?
bullying
Yeah,
another
it's
group.
criticism. It's
No,
Why
it's
do
not
not.
criticism.
views need to be
like trying to
policed?
get someone
That's
payment
literally
processing
criticizing.
cancelled is
Criticizing.
not criticism.
No,
That's
You're
just-
a
no,
literal-
Policing is not
Criticism.
criticizing.
Dario,
Policing is not criticizing.
Cancel culture is not about engaging in debates. It's about cutting people off and silencing them and then pushing them out of public discourse.
Okay.
If
So
I
how does
suck
that
on
happen?
Twitter,
So
wait,
how
Dario,
does
if
that
I
happen?
suck on Twitter and you all chase me off of there because I suck and I get 0 likes, get hated on all the time and ratioed, that isn't cancel culture. That's me being a douchebag. Cancel culture is when I
Well, they
literally
aren't mutually
slice your
exclusive.
PayPal off. I take everything from you and your ability to communicate. If it was people just chasing other people off platforms, we wouldn't have this problem. We could
Okay.
leave each other alone.
I have to jump in here. So I think that there are actually two types of cancel culture, and we're speaking about them. So one is individual to individual, where let's say that I'm gonna say about Dario. I don't like something that Dario said. I'm going to downvote all his shit. I'm going to say we shouldn't talk to him, so on and so forth. That is an individual engaging with another individual in cancel culture. There also seems to be what we're talking about is a platform saying that a person cannot exist on their platform for X whatever reason.
Yes.
So to
There
me,
you go. There you go.
so to me, there is individual to individual cancel culture, and then there's corporation to individual cancel culture. Would we kind of agree with this?
Yep, I agree
Yeah.
totally.
Well,
Yep.
sure. So this can I build on that a little bit?
Sure.
I think the corporation to individual cancel culture springs out of the individual to individual cancel culture when the individual to individual cancel culture becomes great enough so that a large enough individuals or a large enough amount of individuals dislike this certain kind of opinion.
So here's where I just have to jump in. If we kick people off, we're going to get kicked off someday. Yeah. It is going to come back around for us. So just be wary what we're asking these platforms to regulate and not to regulate, because someday there's going to be a person knocking on our accounts.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
But the question is, how else would you regulate these things?
Here's how you regulate them.
Go ahead, Jupiter.
We literally have a whole set of regulations for it if they're not breaking the law. Because here's why, and I'll be honest with you. Communists, I believe, is a dangerous, terroristic ideology that needs to be wiped off the face of the earth. I'm willing to do it with my ideas. But here's the thing. What if one day when all us bad right-wingers get wiped off the face of the earth, then they come for the other people causing controversy? That's you.
So I do want to...
The reason, wait, let me finish. The only reason I don't believe in this is because I'm a hypocrite. The only reason I don't believe in cancel culture, the only reason is because I've tasted it, seen what it does to me, and therefore that's the whole thing. I may disagree, but I'll die for your right to say it. I'm willing to do that because I know that if I allow people to censor you, I in turn can be censored. And these words, if your ideas are so good, why are you so scared of mine?
Oh, sure. No. I have a really good example of how we're scared of yours, because we can look at somebody who's been canceled recently. You guys might know him. He's a really big part of your movement over there. His name is Alex Jones, and his terrible takes every day, who are like infecting the minds of young incels, that would like lead them to go say approach like grieving parents of children and say that they're crisis actors for the government and promote all kinds of crazy conspiracy theories. Like, yeah, I'm okay with these certain platforms, like eliminating this guy's ability to spread these hateful messages and eliminating this guy's ability to keep going, to keep pushing these conspiracies out there is like completely harmful, not only to their product, but to our entire society. And I think everybody can agree on that, right?
People are literally burning my country to the ground right now and shot our senators. Let me let
Torin, go ahead.
Yeah, Grimace, how do we though determine like who is going to be the scientific body that determines what can and cannot be? I'm not trying to ask you to be rude or anything, but how do we determine this?
This is all in the hands of private corporations. They can make these decisions themselves.
Yeah, and I just think
they're going to
Do you really trust
respond
private
to
organizations
the public norms, right? The social norms.
Listen, conservatives, I don't know what you guys do.
Go ahead, last
username. Yeah, I'll let you last username. Go ahead. I want to hear what you got to say. Go ahead.
So, it is up to corporations, but that's like an unsatisfactory answer. Because corporations are just businesses responding to public pressure. Public pressure. They're trying to figure out what the social norms are, and they're responding to that. So, what we're talking about here, I think, the important thing to talk about is what should those social norms be, right? We can change that. We're influencing people. What should we hold corporations responsible for, and should we not hold them responsible for? That will affect how they behave.
I just want to say really quick. I think the problem with cancel culture ultimately comes down to this. It's people's tendency to try to destroy a person rather than argue against an idea. So that if you hear an idea you don't agree with, instead of arguing against it, you just try and get rid of that person or destroy them socially or financially or politically in any way possible. It's just to erase people, not actually take stances.
It's just sort of hyperbolic punishment, right? It's like death penalty for jaywalking. We don't do that because we know it's disproportionate. We need to figure out what is the proportionate response to unpopular opinions. I think the best, it's definitely probably like counter opinions. Like we can counter speech with speech is what it comes down to.
Can you hear Mr. Jennings? I haven't heard them.
I was just thinking that.
Rafiq, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, they want to know your opinion.
I mean, to me, cancel culture is SJWs counseling something that they find offensive, whether it's speech or statues, whatever. Don't think it has something to do with whatever that Scuff Dario said about terrorism. Say that was my definition of cancel culture, and I think it's that it seems that there is a bias being on the leftist side. Many of these tech companies that it's not really fair. I mean, Alex Jones, says, and I
Your mic
like
coming in and out too. I just want you to know that.
it is.
There you
Okay,
go.
I don't even
Perfect.
I don't even think a lot of his products that he sells are great, but he has the free speech to say. It's just that people should try to like discern, but that might be wishful thinking for me.
Final thing for maybe
Sure.
me to say
So-
is I'm okay with YouTube demonetizing a channel. I mean, I'd rather them not do it, but I'm not really okay with them taking a channel off per se. I would rather it just be left to be out there and left to be tarred and feathered and mocked or accepted or so on and so forth. So
No,
yeah, I agree. There's always
when-
going to be a big difference between advertising and platforming. Platforming we can be much more permissive about. Advertising you can't really demand that someone advertise stuff on your and without caring about your opinion, right? Advertisers are always going to care about that, so you can't expect.
Can I ask the left a question real quick? The left side, Grimace, Dario side.
Sure.
So, number one, every time you're asked, well, who should police it? You say, well, private companies, which you don't mean that. The real thing is like HR companies. Wait, hold on. Let me ask you this.
What do you think?
If someone has unfavorable views, okay? Views that you and your buddies disagree with, we shut their water and electric off too?
Come on. Do you have a point?
Man, that's called a question. Do that in America.
Okay, so the concept of free speech that you're operating under is extremely shallow. Okay, the concept of free speech and who should have a platform.
Well, I get the private companies thing. I'm saying where does that?
No. Nobody. I'm not talking about a private company. I'm talking about the concept of free speech and having a platform. Okay, just talking about free speech blank is useless. Because some people's free speech will always inherently limit other people's free speech. That is why you need something to facilitate some people having their speech limited, right?
That is why we don't allow free speech and whose speech is more important than the other.
That is why we don't allow people, for example, to have calls of violence against people, because we understand that if somebody is constantly threatening you with calls of violence,
we agree with
inherently limit your free speech. So the question there is, so the question there is, how far do we go with this logic? Right? How far does this logic go?
I haven't gone anywhere with your logic.
Okay, Dario, I'd like you to answer that.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is the most effective way that I can see where we get around the government limiting free speech or a private company is to have individuals cancel each other in large enough masses. We want individuals to limit other individuals.
To those individuals?
Wait, sorry.
By whichever subjective standard they like.
But that's a non-answer, right? That could be anything.
No.
What if the individual decide I'm going to cancel? Anyone who I disagree with. I'm going to try to completely eliminate.
If you have enough people, yeah.
Archer,
What else? How else would you do it?
Archer.
But okay, so there's an audience of individuals out there who
free
want
speech.
you to tell them, Dario, what should my standard be? What would you tell them?
Well, my standard specifically, I already listed in my intro 3 points. Yeah.
Archer, what was you gonna say?
Okay, so can we all agree that this comes back to a public backlash, because the public is affecting what ads they want to see, and so if the public responds in masses, you can that's how cancel culture is, how this machine keeps going. I think there's an assumption there that the public always has the wisest decision. Dario, do you assume that under your system?
Oh fuck! You're going in and out of the
He
room.
asked it, did you assume that under? Go ahead. Go say it now. What you can't?
Do you assume that the public opinion is always wise?
Okay.
No, so I'm a big fan generally of democracy, and I believe that if people come together and have an opinion, they should have some way to enforce that opinion.
Is that opinion wise? Is that opinion inherently wise because it comes from the masses?
Well, no, not inherently. But if the masses so choose, I mean, that is the will of the masses. Like, what is the alternatives, right? There's basically three alternatives, right? Number one,
Dario, the public used to.
Number one,
to watch public executions.
Number
right?
two,
Public used to.
Sure. Number one, there's three
to
alternatives
burn
to limit
witches.
speech, right? Number one is government. Number two is private companies. Number three is the people themselves.
But it all
Those three,
comes. It
I will
all
choose
comes
An
government.
back to the
oversimplification,
people.
Dario.
This
No,
is,
what
this
else?
Is where
Do you have
all-
another?
Public opinion
do you
changes.
have a
Our
fourth?
social norms change
Yes,
over time, right?
yes,
We used to think it
yes.
was perfectly fine to lynch people.
Yes.
Now we don't. So those norms are
Exactly.
changing now. We need to
But
develop
he's
new
saying
norms.
it's fine to do
That's what I'm
something,
saying.
but
That's
now
what I'm
you're
saying.
Okay,
I'm
I
saying
agree
I
with
will
you.
advocate. I will advocate for my views, and I
But
will
when we
say
ask
my
you
way
what
of
those norms
looking
should
at
be,
this.
you just say whatever the public wants, right? That's not an
Yeah,
answer.
so you're saying
Yes, because it's not a question of my personal views. Like I said, like I already
It's a
said,
question of
my
everyone's
three
personal
criteria.
views. That's
Yeah,
how we
so
come
what
up with
it
views
sounds
as
like
we
it's okay
influence
for
each other.
SJW
Yeah,
I
that is
understand
why.
your
That is why. Literally, listen. If I could just fucking finish one point, okay? Because everybody
Calm
keeps
down,
jumping
man.
in.
You'll be all right.
No, no, because I
joking.
understand this
Stay
is
safe.
apparently a very hot take that I don't want government and private corporations to control speech. This is the only alternative, right? And it has to be subjective, and it has to be general subjective consciousness, right?
Wait, so you just said you
Are
don't-
there are there
Wait,
not
wait,
other
wait,
alternatives?
Wait, so you said you don't support private companies or the government doing it. So do you not want YouTube to ban people?
Well, depends, right?
Oh,
Depends on
it
like how
doesn't.
you do it.
just said it before, so it's either yes or no.
No, it depends on why they're banning people, right?
So
So
you
if
do.
they're banning
We're
people because there's a lot of
oversimplifying each other's
people.
views. Can
So
I
you're
point
okay with them
something
banning
out?
people?
And this is a fact.
Yeah, of course, I have
We're
to be okay
oversim-
with YouTube banning people, right? But the question isn't who. The question is who gets to decide why they're banned, right? If
Can
it's
the
just
angry-
YouTube
can the
people
angry Norwegian-
willy-nilly,
Settle down for one moment.
No.
no, I'm
He's
not
from
Norwegian.
Denmark.
I'm being a Jaguar.
Listen, you haven't made a
Glad to
single
get
point
your
during this
attention.
talk. Let me just address the
every
people here.
observation
That's
is
So-
fine.
wrong.
You've
so-
just been yelling.
So
No, no,
the
no,
way
no,
the
no.
way that this
Mike Peter,
works is
listen,
if
you're just
YouTube
going to yell
has
over
enough
everybody and get
public
angry,
if YouTube
wanna go
has
take
enough
a
public
moment?
backlash against people so that enough
names.
people come together and decide this content isn't worth having a platform, then I think that should be a reasonable way to deplatform somebody. I do
Dario.
not think that YouTube independently should decide these things, though.
Okay.
He's a communist.
Regardless of
Dario,
the public
Dario,
opinion.
Do you believe that's a just system?
I believe it's a more just system than the one that exists now, yes. I believe democracy is the
that's
most
basically
just
the
system
system
we
it
have
is
access
now.
to.
No, it sounds
What?
like you want a public benchmark to decide on which is good speech and which is bad speech.
Yeah, I want the public to decide what good speech is rather than
Do you
private
think
companies
whatever
and
the
the
public
government.
decides
Yes.
is right, Dario?
Yes. Yes, I
Public
do want
benchmark.
I do want the public to decide what good speech is rather than the
So
whatever
the
they
government
choose,
and
if
private
the-
companies.
if the
If
public
the public
has-
chooses to just kill everyone or just kill anyone they disagree with, you're just like, well, public decided. I'm not going to argue with that. You wouldn't say, hey, public, you're wrong. You shouldn't do this. It's not a good way.
What
for
if they
you."
came for a minority group?
Wait, okay,
Yes, as
so
they have many
there's
times before.
yeah,
don't
so
say.
there's sure, yeah, so there is a difference, right? There's a difference between speech and being killed. Do we agree, or is this the same?
Yes.
According to you guys,
We do. But
Sure.
I mean, earlier you were appealing to things
So
like
if you-
funding terrorist groups.
Sure,
It's
sure.
a
So
public-
there's
the public
obviously
has
there's
an
obviously
opinion that a
there's
certain
obviously
group can be
concepts that
killed.
exist like human rights, right? We do not want to take people's human rights
speech
away
is a
from
human
them.
right. Expression is a
Well,
human right, and your
sure,
expression,
Sure.
your
and you have
ability,
and
listen,
you have
keep
access.
talking, man.
You
keep
can
talking,
go
you keep
down
talking.
and
You
stand
talk
on
for
the
like
corner of the street
quarters
and
of
express
this.
your human right.
Now, let me go do that. I'm going to go get naked, just like the communists want. You want me butt naked in the street with a sign saying, "Here's my rights," because I can't go on YouTube. No, what it really is, if it was
What is
reversed,
communist about democracy? Is democracy
Why would you
communist
be
now? I mean, I'll
butt naked
take
because you couldn't
it.
get on
Listen.
it because you got banned
Dario,
from
is there
YouTube.
is
A
there a
democracy
check?
could
Is there a
become
check to the
literally
a
can't stop
communist.
talking.
Listen, I mean, I didn't know the right was against democracy, but hey, I mean,
Well, I'm against
democracy
democracy.
become-
They're for government
Completely
regulation
against
now,
democracy.
apparently.
Bring in the aristocracy. That's one thing.
sure, yeah,
I don't
just
believe in
so
democracy.
sure. So Jupiter doesn't believe in democracy. That's fine.
I'm a
That's
republic.
just a fundamental.
I believe in a
Sure.
republic. I don't
Sure.
believe.
They're not
That's a
mutually
diff-
exclusive. Come on.
So
No,
there's
no,
a
no, no.
fundamental
I know
difference
what
between you and me.
I'm
Then.
not. Wait a minute. Can I finish? Because there's so much microphone talk. I have all of my chips in the democracy basket if you include the words republic with that form of governance. I don't believe that 51 people out of 100 should be able to vote to take anything that belongs to me. I'm not a true.
Wait,
Anything?
what is
People in
belonging
democracy.
to you in this case?
Oh, that's
What do you
I'm
own,
explaining-
dude?
Getting a little abstract here.
Yeah, like
So
what are
I'm
you talking
saying is
about?
the reason I don't believe. No, all right, I got flustered. reason I believe in a republic, and I don't call myself just pure believer in democracy, is because when 51 people of 100 get to vote on something, that's mob rule. I don't believe in that.
We all know that. We don't need the
What you're
lecture.
saying
So 49
is that-
people voting on something, that's fine, and then we pass
No.
that.
Jupiter.
No,
I was
We're
gonna say-
talking we're talking about like whether or not private businesses can deplatform things or whether or not
I'm
the government
aware.
can
I
ban
got
it.
on the
Hold on,
democracy.
Jupiter. I'm just saying, like, ultimately it comes down to it's a little bit more of like cancel culture. It's like a cultural value or a cultural practice. It's what people are upholding, and they used to uphold the concept of tolerance, or I don't agree with what you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it.
Wait,
and now it's
let-
shut
then let
them
me
down and
finish.
shut them up, and
That's my
cultural
point.
Value, if that's the practice.
Wait,
what
that's-
cancel culture
let
is,
me
not
finish.
Necessarily whether or not, just let me finish. It's not necessarily whether or not someone has like the legal right, because we do have the legal right. We have free speech. It's about like the cultural practice of shutting people down and canceling them as people. That's
I
the
understand
problem.
that. What I was saying is, when it comes to democracy, I don't believe in a true democracy. But what I'm saying with the cancel culture, I also don't believe that 1% of the population, Silicon Valley, should be able to decide for the rest of the 99 percentile who can speak.
Hang on. This is where I have to push back on you a little bit, Jupiter, because I think that you said that you were a libertarian, right?
Yeah, he's a right-leaning
Oh,
libertarian.
Wait. Okay. So because like
I didn't say that.
So not a real libertarian.
But within the libertarian framework, whoever wins would be the winner. It's kind of like I'm being like a little reductionist on what libertarianism is, but like if you have the ability, if you have the munitions, if you have the power, if you have the platform, so on and so forth, whatever you want goes.
Agreed. That would be the libertarian frame set, but I'm not a true libertarian in any way. As I said, I'm a pretty hard right libertarian, but also I don't think that this is a free market. I think that the amount of power that the tech oligarchs have accrued, it's no longer a free market if people who are trying to start up can't because they're getting shut down. It's not a free market.
Okay, and you would have the government come in and intervene in these situations.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, I'm not a. Yeah, of course.
That's you sound like a really hard right libertarian here. I gotta
No,
say.
I don't believe in
Very
monopoly.
anti-libertarian.
On
don't
behalf
believe
of the
in
not hard
monopoly.
right libertarians, I'd say that's a terrible, terrible idea. Government should not be involved.
No,
in
I'm in the libertarian spot. I'm not very libertarian.
We know. Yeah, we know. You just say it. I got it.
Okay, to defend
It's sexy.
Jupiter here,
I mean,
are
as
you
somebody
not
who's
allowed-
actually a libertarian, I really don't want the
you-
government
Are
to
you
decide
not
these
allowed
things.
to like?
Well,
critique
hold
the
on,
ideology.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Archer. Because I want to say conservatives as well as right wingers want less government too. So, I mean,
Yeah, I thought so
Some of
too.
them do.
I mean,
I'm like
come
something
on
wrong
now.
right now. Though. I don't
No
understand.
one does.
I
okay.
thought I was being conservative with my take.
I mean,
I don't
don't-
get it.
Apparently, I'm a
want the
conservative
left, I
now.
want the left to
let's
sit up
do-
here and say that we are pro government. Archer, go ahead. I'm
No,
sorry.
only
for
when
cutting
it's
you
like
off, sweetie.
military or directing
to,
people's speech.
to defend Jupiter here, like people should be allowed to call themselves right. Jupiter can call himself a libertarian. If
Don't.
Well, do you believe in core concept of libertarianism? But you don't agree with. I'm assuming you don't agree with all of them, correct?
Not at all. No. Even close.
Yeah. So, like these ideologies need to be able to evolve and formulate into different positions. I mean,
Yeah,
to,
but
like,
the core to libertarianism is like anti-government, right? Like that's the
I am
foundation.
anti-government. I'm not. I'm anti-monopoly as well.
that's
Okay.
a very oversimplification.
Okay. Hold on. I don't want to
libertarian
get into
theory.
ideology. I'm going to wrap it up in 2 minutes. So
Not
I just want to
libertarian.
get back into is cancel culture helpful or harmful? Because we get into what's government, what's this, what's that. I want to get back into what is cancel culture helpful or harmful. We got 2 more minutes because I don't want to spend too much on this because I think the last question is going to be the one we're going to spend a lot of time on. So go ahead and wrap it up. And actually, let's go ahead and wrap it up now. So I'm going to go ahead and have everybody do their 2-minute closing argument. Let's start off with Archer.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I'll just restate what I said at the beginning. I think there is deep down there is a form of cancel culture, if you even would want to call it then at that point cancel culture. I probably wouldn't use that terminology, but I think there's a form of this idea that is worth investigating more and trying to figure out a system that is just, that is fair, and that does allow society to negate to make the society less healthy. And I would consider propagating conspiracy theories like flat Earth theory, if you had a massive amount of people believing, contributing to that theory because of tactics that sophists use. I think that's a good. That would be a good outcome of cancel culture.
All right, thank you, Brento.
No, ultimately, cancel culture is extremely detrimental and toxic, and it causes less communication and less understanding, and it kind of promotes a culture of fear where people are afraid to question things, because even questioning things can get you canceled. Like asking hard questions, even that maybe you need to understand, and then ultimately it leads to censorship, and it leads to it just leads to conformity and people doing things but not really understanding why. I mean, within like religious concepts, within like Catholicism, it's called excommunication. Like if you stand up for something that the church doesn't agree with, or you say something against the Bible, then you're excommunicated, which means excommunication. You're out. No one can talk to you anymore. That's what cancel culture is. So it leads to ultimately a culture of ignorance and fear. That's what it's designed to do. And people think that they're protecting themselves, but they're actually making themselves weaker. So no, it's terrible. You should engage with ideas, and you should engage with people you disagree with. And that's it's hard, but that's ultimately how you learn.
All right, and Rafiq.
Me, can you hear me, everybody?
Yep. Oh yeah, we can hear you perfectly. Your mic's been fine.
Okay. Cancer culture. Well, cancel thing, but cancel culture me leads to.
Put your mic closer to your mouth again now. Go ahead and put your, because it's cutting off slightly. It's not too bad, but it's cutting off. There you go.
I mean, cancel culture is censorship, and censorship makes
perfect
a product or YouTube channel the forbidden fruit, and it makes it desirable for everybody. And this is what people don't realize. You censor something to become the forbidden fruit, and everybody wants to know, why were they censored? Maybe they're telling the truth. Maybe they have something that the man don't want us to hear, and everything. So no, so cancel culture does not help. It actually would help the very platforms that got censored. And on the Republic, the U.S. was founded as a republic. If we could keep it. It was not founded as democracy. It's just been hammered so many times that it's democracy. But the Greeks know that democracies could lead to totalitarianship, to communism, when you have a lynch mob determining which speech is good and which speech is not good. So, and cancel culture is part of this lynch mob that could lead from democracy to totalitarianism or communism. That's all I have to say.
All right, Jupiter.
Brento Box said you can get canceled for even asking questions. It's true. Zuby got canceled, suspended from Twitter for saying, "Okay, dude," because it was misgendering somebody. The problem with cancel culture really is that when you can't ask questions and can't really formulate thoughts that may be ignorant and dumb and then get corrected, just get wiped off a platform that everyone uses. And sure, you can go somewhere no one goes. Fine. I guess you're not canceled now. Two people can see you. It removes all the nuance, all the subtleties of life, all the subtleties of these conversations. If you really, really want fanatics on both sides, start canceling people, and so only the really well-dressed, nice, everyday Republicans and Democrats are allowed a platform, and watch the mushrooms of fanaticism on the other sides grow, and that's what happened. I mean, we're never going to stop it. Cancel culture, especially in this generation, is rampant, especially with Gen Z, but we can at least oppose it while we can.
Okay. And last username? Yeah,
so we were kind of getting at what I think is the core issue, but we couldn't really stay on it. It's not, so government shouldn't, regulate speech. I think that's really straightforward. Yes, private companies should be able to decide what they platform. Yes, people should be able to criticize each other, but the real question is, what should our norms be for how we socially respond to speech? It's not sufficient to just say, "Oh, let the people decide," because that's a superficial answer. Like, how should we decide? Okay, there is not some correct opinion that the public will come up with. Okay, public opinion changes. Social norms change over time. We've come a long way from the days when we did lynchings and public executions, when those were popular, considered perfectly socially acceptable, and now they're not. I think we're in a period now where there are things that in the future, like cancellations that in the future we'll consider abhorrent. How could we used to do that? And we need to figure out what that is and what the proper social norms should be. And that's what I'd like to do here, but we didn't really get to that. We were stuck on, I don't know, arguing about other stuff. But that's what the question is. That's the question. What should the social norms be for cancellation?
All right, and Grimace.
Sure. As the only conservative, hard right evangelical on the platform, I don't agree with the core principles, but I think I'm going to label myself that. The only real solution to this is cultural change. Like, we need to push back against the people who just have these really dumb takes. Like, if you want to use the government to regulate free speech, you're building a rod for your own back, which many people have highlighted, but they don't seem to realize that also applies to their own takes. I want to go back to an example that Jupiter said earlier about not providing water and gas to somebody who's canceled. Like, no, like, obviously the water and gas people are regulated by the government, which prevents them from not giving water and gas to certain people, right? So, like, that's not even applicable in this case. But I would say that the turning point culturally, I would say, is when we tried to cancel Joe Biden, and we're seeing it right now with J.K. Rowling. There's like a big divide happening. I don't know if anybody's paying attention to it, but mark my words, Tree. I just went with the T. I'm sorry, Tree.
How dare you?
I know. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean that at all. But I know. Listen, but you have authoritarian tendencies, at least on this panel. But like what I said, like, it's kind of at this point that, like, everybody sees it, and we just need to make this cultural push in this case. We need to stop paying attention to the people who want to silence everybody else by just being mean on the internet to them.
All right, Dario.
Yeah, so I guess as a libertarian on this panel, I'm very much anti-big business. I'm very much anti-government, and that only leaves the people. I want private citizens to have as much power as humanly possible. One extension of that power is to have some control over what they want to or do not want to listen to, or even, if given a large enough numbers, effectively cancel some people. If everybody in the world collectively decided that they didn't want to listen to you anymore, you're canceled. You aren't effectively canceled. You can still speak, but you'll speak to no one. And that is how it works right now, and that is how I want it to keep working. If you don't like the conclusions that people come to, the cancellations, I would say seek to educate people, explain, convert, talk to people and say, hey, maybe we shouldn't cancel X or Y. Should you get canceled for asking questions? No, obviously not. Good faith discussion is important. I probably don't agree with like 99% of the people who are getting canceled, or even like the vast majority of the people on the right getting canceled. But I mostly disagree with like governments or private companies doing it unilaterally. I think the only other way is people coming together and then putting pressure to see the change that they want to see. As for like social norms, what I think they should be, I think nobody should get canceled for being conservative Republican. Nobody should get canceled for asking questions. Nobody should get canceled for being uninformed. Yeah, at the end of the day, let the culture and the people decide what is acceptable or not acceptable.
Okay, and last but definitely not least, touring news.
A smart person once told me, if somebody tells you that something's free, it probably isn't. And I think that when we thought that YouTube was going to be free, when we thought Facebook was going to be free, when we thought Google was going to be free, I think that we all got deceived. And we've allowed the public square to become hijacked by private companies. You can debate whether or not YouTube is the public square. You can debate whether Twitter is the public square. And that's where I think one of the big debates needs to be had at. I am not for letting a private company tell people if they're allowed to speak in the public square or if they're not. So I think we'd have to kind of talk about that one. So I'm very okay with an individual, quote unquote, canceling another, deeply critiquing another, saying this person shouldn't be engaged with. I'm not okay with private companies saying you're not allowed to be speaking here or you're not allowed to be speaking there.
Okay, thank you. And we just had a vote while everybody was giving their closing arguments. And the question was, is cancel culture helpful or harmful? And we have the majority that stated it was harmful. All right, without further ado, that was pretty good. Let's move on to our next question that we have up on the list. And that deals with the COVID-19. Political question number 1. When protests broke out against the coronavirus lockdown, many public health experts were quick to warn us about spreading the virus. When protests broke out after George Floyd's death, some of those same experts dropped the warning and embraced the protests. Some even participated in it. Before the death of George Floyd, many public health experts came out against public gatherings of almost any sort this spring, including protests over lockdown policies and large religious gatherings. NBC sent out tweets an hour apart praising the Black Trans Lives Matter protest while condemning Trump's Tulsa, Oklahoma rally. And the same applies to Time magazine, which also displayed a political bias. The New York Post pointed out the double standards. And those of you who put exclamation point questions in the chat will also get what we're looking at, okay? And you can also look at these sources. Scientists who are seen as changing recommendations based on political and social priorities are losing public trust. This could cause people, particularly those on the right, to disregard their advice and refuse to adhere to stricter lockdown policies proposed in the future. So here's the question to be discussed. What is your opinion? What happened? Hold on a second. Oh, okay. What is your, I'm sorry, I lost my part. Okay. What is your opinion on leaders politicizing COVID-19? I'm going to start off with Touring News on this one. Let me go ahead and get your 2-minute opening argument uninterrupted.
What is my opinion on leaders politicizing COVID? I think that we live in a time where it's very difficult to believe and or accept science. I mentioned earlier that I come from talking a lot about climate change and so on and so forth. And I believe that this is something that shouldn't have been politicized, but that did become politicized, as well as how COVID is. The left media in the United States, they were highly critical of the Michigan protests, and they were not highly critical of others. This is a really hard question for me to talk about, actually. I was fine with anybody going out to protest. All that I was really hoping for back in Michigan or back recently was just people wear masks and try to keep some type of distance. I don't have anything good to say on this one. It's really hard for me. I apologize.
Okay, you can yield if you want.
Oh no, that's just where I'll stop it for now. I'll try. I want to listen to other people and then I'll go on.
Okay. Okay, Grimace.
Sure. Like, it was bound to be politicized immediately the moment that Trump said that it was a Democratic hoax when faced with criticism. Once he did this, like, it was impossible. There was no point in time he could come back and then just try to unite the country, which a good leader should, because that would be admitting that he was wrong in his previous statements. Because he made a lot of really dumb statements in the beginning, saying it wasn't a big deal, while making no preparation at all. He said things like it'll wash away. He even said recently on Hannity that it's all going to wash away. And when you say stuff like this, it divides the country. One half knows that Trump's a liar and knows that we need to listen to the experts and like stay indoors and listen and have a calm, measured response. And then people on the right who are egged on by Trump to that, like, masks are some symbol of like servitude or whatever he's saying, that people should just like really concentrate on reopening the economy for some odd reasons, having like that calm response that we should have, which don't know if you guys have seen the cases lately, especially in red states like Arizona, Texas, and Florida. There's giant spikes right now. People not wearing masks because like the mask itself is like a political symbol now, which it shouldn't be. But for the most part, I think the Black Lives Matter stuff was sort of a catalyst. It was something that had to be done then and there. That's not something you could delay because like the energy was right there, and it doesn't make sense to like wait. Like, oh yeah, we're really outraged about this, but let's wait until after phase 3. Like that's not going to happen. That's not reasonable to think that. But to egg on protests, like to try to reopen the economy when we should be having like a calm, measured response, like that's something we can point to and criticize. But like the Black Lives Matter, that's literally people not giving a shit about what's going on in that case. It's really about the injustices that the Black community is historically faced.
Okay, and Dario.
Yeah, so I think first off, I'd say COVID is a serious affair, and you should definitely listen to the advice of the government. Don't gather, don't do meetups, don't go to like large places where large amounts of people gather. When that's being said, there will always be a good reason to disregard this advice. One of those is medical issues. Another one, I would say, is protesting. You should always, for any reason whatsoever, be able to protest whatever the fuck the government tells you, if it is within your power to do so. I even supported the Republicans who protested the COVID lockdowns, even if I think they're fucking idiots. And I will support, and I am supporting the BLM protests in the same way, even if I do agree that they're very justified in what they're doing. It's just a question of value. Do you value the power to protest? I think you should obviously take your precautions, wear masks, keep distance, do whatever you can to minimize, but definitely do protests. And of course, it is always going to be politicized. Everything is political. It's political in every single country of the world. All the leaders are scrutinized for how they deal with the pandemic. It's the same way every single time a big global thing breaks out. It's like a war or a pandemic or whatever. Everybody looks to the leaders, how they deal with it, because there's different ways to do so. And choosing the right way to deal with it is their job. So, and if you disagree with the way that they do things or what they choose, fucking go out and protest.
All right, Jupiter.
I didn't think I would be saying this anytime, at least recently, but I agree with Dario 100%. I think that if Republicans want to protest the government and if Black Lives Matter want to protest the government, I am 1 billion times behind them. Good. I mean, protest is the most important tool we have. As for the politicization, jeez.
I know it's hard.
That one really got me just there. But of coronavirus, it both sides. Listen, let's not do the Trump Pelosi nonsense. All right, Pelosi, Cuomo, Blasio was even he was saying, don't worry, here's the things I'd recommend for you to do this weekend. Fauci. Infallible Fauci even said, this isn't that big of a deal until later. Sides got it wrong, apparently. It obviously wasn't as bad as we thought it would be. But the reason it's scary to make this a political issue is because right now, I don't believe you. When I say you, I mean like Fauci and people like that, because they've been wrong a million times. The WHO was clearly in the bag for China. And I, at this point, I'm not anti-science, and I'm not saying Corona doesn't exist. But what I'm saying is at this point, because it became political, people may die. People at Tulsa may die. And that's not Trump's fault, and it's not the people, the rally's fault. It's divided country, a brutally divided country. You can't admit that if you're on the right or the left. I mean, of us believe each other. And so when it became political, we risked all of our lives. Now, that being said, at this point, it's a disease of the elderly. That much is clear here in Pennsylvania. It's 65%. We're in nursing homes. Okay, am I done? Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Last username?
So I don't see how COVID could not be political. I mean, obviously there are massive political implications for the pandemic. What we should demand from politicians and from everybody really is that they be honest and accurate and consistent. And I think we've seen all of our political leaders, especially in America, have let people down in many ways during this pandemic. And in those regards, there was a lot of pandering, and there was a lot of using the pandemic to sort of just to attack political opponents at the expense of public information. And so especially, so like one example, like anyone who was who at the same time was telling people that that the pandemic means you have to lock down and you shouldn't be going out in the streets and stuff, and then also said that when all the sort of race riots started up, that that's fine, you can go and riot now because this is an important cause or something. That seems extremely hypocritical to me. And whether or not those riots should happen is another issue. But to say that it's not dangerous, that it's not going to it's not going to exacerbate the pandemic, to do it, that's just extremely hypocritical. So that's one example. I just want people to be consistent and accurate. And yeah, it's going to be political, but let's demand better of our politicians.
Okay, Archer.
Can't hear you.
Hear you, bud.
Okay, let's go. Yeah, okay, go ahead, Brento.
Yeah, on it, politicizing it, I mean, that sucks. I'm not sure. It's almost hard for anything not to be politicized nowadays, like, I mean, with the country. So, kind of like charged and divided. Like last username said, though, ultimately, like when the pandemic, started and has been spreading, and it's been pretty much all anyone's really been hearing about, except maybe within the last 3 weeks, for the past couple months, and the economy shut down and people were in quarantine and everyone's taking on new norms and saying it's the new normal. And, a lot of businesses have been going out of business and probably won't reopen, and people were canceling, weddings or not seeing loved ones. Everyone's fully aware of everything that's been going on. And then when the protests started, suddenly that just doesn't matter, right? And yes, it is a very serious cause, but to have it literally like flip night and day. At one moment, it is literally life and death for hundreds of thousands, potentially millions, and the next, it does not matter at all. This is more important, and everyone is okay to flood the streets in the millions for weeks at a time, and then that's necessary. And it's like, okay, it is important and it is necessary, but that does not mean that it's, that it doesn't matter, that the pandemic is over, and then suddenly it's just no one talks about it anymore. And now they're like, well, it's spiking again. Well, maybe it's been spiking because millions of people have been flooding the streets by the hundreds, all across the nation. But if you tried to draw that connection, which I think everyone fundamentally understands, they would say like, well, no, don't do that. So it's almost impossible not to politicize it. But at this point, I think after the protests, I don't think anyone is going to be told to not reopen your business, or it's too serious to go outside. It's life and death. Like, until when? Until people want to go back into the streets again? No, I think the spell is kind of broken on that. I don't think anyone is going to be accepting a lockdown or a quarantine to the degree that everyone was initially.
Rafiq?
I think leaders from all political sides of the spectrum politicizing COVID-19 care about the interests and are only doing it for their own fame. Mainstream media never cared about the best interests. For them, it's about ratings, clickbaits. Coronavirus is going to kill us all, the Chinese hornets, etc. It's all fear and outrage as the negativity gets the most views. To me, the worst offenders of the politicizing of COVID-19 medical experts, heroes who have passed the essential hero baton to the protesters riot, saying to the whole social distancing be damned. Get out there and fight for social justice. The media is complicit in, and is also as politicians like New York City Mayor de Blasio instructing that contact tracers do not ask people with new cases of COVID if they were in protest. The flip-flopping and hypocrisy from healthcare professionals 0.0, who said there was no clear evidence of human transmission. They had to backtrack. Praise Sweden, term unit, and backtrack. Recently, who cannot explain whether COVID is transmitted is either symptomatic, asymptomatic, or pre-symptomatic, and not even distinguishing these terms for those who are not well-versed in medical terms. So, studies have been promoted and retracted. Studies have contradicted themselves. All this sends mixed messages to people of any political side to just say, fuck it, all because our experts could not just tell us, like, look, COVID is a novel, new coronavirus, and we're just learning about it, and we'll just educate you as new data emerges. That would have been leadership as opposed to all this grandstanding, fear-mongering, and people out of touch with reality, bureaucrats out of touch reality of the average American telling us what's good for us. That's it.
Okay. I'm going to start off.
Can I?
Hold on.
Is my mic working now?
Yes.
Yeah,
okay. I'm sorry. Oh, Archer, go. It's your turn. It's your turn.
Is this better?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
Sweet. Okay. So yeah, this is the coronavirus is inherently political because politics is how people in a particular society agree to the rules of governance and how they are governed. So this was going to be political from the very start, because since we're in a pandemic, I mean, the state in whatever capacity has to act in order to keep society safe. And now we could debate the issues of, was this too much? Was this too little? But regardless, this was political, and I don't think putting the blame on Trump or Democrats is a necessarily fair way to phrase this. But when it comes to how discourse came to be out of this coronavirus, I thought it was incredibly gross how people criticized the Republicans who were protesting, which I was one. However, those who were criticizing them and saying that they are killing lives by passing around the coronavirus, then turn around and have massive blinders. And this isn't ignorant blinders. This is totally intentional blinders to when these protests came out. From the standards that were set from the beginning, it was totally unacceptable, reckless, and it's just hypocritical behavior to not condemn those who were out on the streets, not social distancing, not taking proper hygienic care of the area. That type of hypocrisy is gross to me, and I think it shows a deeper political politicization from commentators. That is, I think, gross behavior.
Your mic sounds awesome, by the way. That is 100% better. So I want to
last username.
Oh, speaking of last username, I'm gonna focus this one on him, and I'm gonna let you guys jump in. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. We're doing the freeform round. So last username, you said it can't help but be politicized. So why wasn't H1N1, why wasn't Ebola and swine flu politicized? Why is it that those were not politicized, but this one is politicized? And then you guys can jump in after that. I just wanted to start it off that way. Go ahead.
Because governments managed to keep those under control at various, and so they didn't get nearly as out of control as this, so they didn't become huge political hot topics. Yeah. Like when I say politicized, I just mean that the government is obviously going to be involved in this. If you mean politicized in the sense that it becomes a political football and that divorces it from the reality and the practicality of the situation, then I would agree there's no need to politicize it. But politicized in the sense that the government's going to be involved, of course, sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of amazed at all these defeated Republicans on the panel right now, all these conservatives who say we don't have a choice but to be politicized. That's just what's going to happen. They've completely forgotten about their last president, George W. Bush. But the last time we encountered a major controversy, you guys might have forgotten, but I'll never forget, it was 9/11. And if you guys don't remember that time, everybody was driving on the streets with American flags. Everybody was getting together, and we were coming to the same conclusions about this outside enemy we had to actually face. And I'll remember forever when George W. Bush went into the New York Yankee Stadium, a completely Democratic-controlled area, and threw out that first pitch, and the entire country got on their feet and fucking cheered. People don't even like baseball, so to act like this is like inevitable that we're gonna politicize this is only because you guys elected a really shitty leader. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah, you guys totally cheered George Bush.
Absolutely.
We cheered.
Absolutely.
Do you know what?
Absolutely.
I mean, like,
9/11
it's
brought
ignorance.
the
I-
American
You guys,
people together.
you guys have forgotten.
COVID.
You guys
is
have
not doing
forgotten.
No one forgot 9/11. No one just considered COVID equal to 9/11.
Yeah, you're right. COVID has a lot.
COVID is
Has
way
a lot
worse.
more deaths. Yeah, way
There
worse.
was-
COVID is a virus. What do you mean? The
Yes,
flu
it's
has
a
more
virus.
I
deaths.
don't know, man.
Car crashes have
This
more
is-
deaths. It's
The-
not the same as 9/11. Someone
Yeah,
purposely
it's
drove
an event.
planes
It's a
into our-
catalyzing event on the country that affects us all, just like 9/11.
9/11 was a
it's
terrorist
huge,
attack
it's
where
a huge
people literally blew
non-political
up
issue
thousands
that we
of
could all
Americans.
get behind.
9/11?
We could all get behind this with the right leader.
Can I get
Video.
Tor? I want to get Turing in here. Go ahead,
You
Turing.
guys forgot.
One person said back at the end of February, now the Democrats are politicizing the coronavirus. They have no clue. They can't even count their votes in Iowa. This is their new hoax. I think we know why it got politicized. I don't have anything else to say.
Okay, go ahead, guys. Y'all can go back to fussing at each other.
Okay, wait, hold on. Can I just say one thing? Wait. We can be fair with each other and say that if we don't think that our health advisors and scientists are political, that's dangerous. Now it does seem that way. It really does seem that way.
Yeah, because of Trump's attacks on like Dr. Fauci, right? Like,
And
you
it's
guys
all
already have
everyone
political
else. It's
opinions
all
on this.
everyone else. Of course.
No, this is the issue.
I
This is
don't
the
Third,
issue,
it's
right?
like
There is-
Trump. It's like
there is
He's the leader of the country, of course.
The Trump
Wait,
arrangement.
what did
sounds like
Obama
real.
do on H1N1?
I don't know. I believe
Terrible.
there was no like controversy among the people, right? Like people didn't get on two
Because
sides
you
of it.
guys control the media. You ask why right now we don't have the support of the country. It's because CNN, MSNBC,
Oh my
New
God.
York Times.
Listen to
It's
this
a
guy.
fact. It's a fact.
Yeah,
Premise-
yeah.
premise, could you
they
control the
define
message.
could you define politicizing for me, please?
Sure. When Trump like faced criticisms of his
That's
lack
not
of
that's not a
That's not a
definition.
definition.
Please give me a definition.
I'm giving you guys an
You're giving me the
example.
example. I want a definition.
Yeah, it's when you take an issue and then make it like one side or the other based on your political affiliation.
How do you do that?
How did he do that?
Specifically.
When he said
Specifically.
criticism of the his preparation, that Trump, the Republican leader, his actual
Joe
response to
Biden
it,
on the feed here.
he called that a hoax, right? Like that's obviously politicizing it. Like
Didn't call it a hoax. It's not what he said.
Wait, so this is
Sweet
the
goddess,
issue.
bring up the
You
transcript.
just
That's not
got
what he said.
you
This
just
is
got
this-
the quote from Touring News.
I got you.
This is the issue.
Wait, we
This is the
just
issue,
had,
right?
you don't need to repeat
Sure,
it.
sure.
When
This
faced
is
with
How did he
criticism,
say it was a hoax?
he said when faced with
He
criticism,
said corona.
he said
he said coronavirus was a hoax.
no.
The hoax.
When
Didn't
faced with
exist? Right.
Listen, wait, are you okay? Are you not ready to deal with the response? Like when faced
Please.
with criticism about his response to the coronavirus, the fact he wasn't preparing, he said this is the Democrats' new hoax.
It's not calling coronavirus a hoax.
What?
Clearly not.
It has the same results.
What?
The so-called mainstream media are asking political neutral questions, have then now been put as the Dems because they dared to say that maybe the coronavirus is something we should care about. And then when faced with these questions, Trump said, what did he say? This is the new Democratic hoax. That's essentially
He was
functionally
referring
the
to-
Has
same
the
was
thing.
mainstream
referring
media
right
been
in it.
against?
I
Has
was
the mainstream
referring-
media treated Trump fairly compared to all other candidates out there?
Wait, what does
Never.
that mean?
Well, like if
Never.
you're painting this picture here,
What
like,
about the
put
criticism he
can you put yourself into fucking Trump's shoes for a
Okay,
second?
get out of the victim complex.
Hey,
Makes
the
no
mainstream
sense, it's
media
bullshit.
has fucked me so many fucking times. You know, he's gonna associate the mainstream media with the Democrats.
Yeah, and he's gotten you all on his side. That's the reason he never admits he's wrong. He never faces criticism or anything like that. But like we just said, it was criticism of his response and his lack of preparation. He politicized it at that moment. Does anybody disagree with this?
Also, no, I do
That's the
disagree.
first
But
case.
also, the reason that he doesn't apologize is because the last 5 candidates that we put up against you guys that apologized sent ringing with their ears cooked. Racist, dog killers, war criminals, bomb Iran. We don't apologize anymore because you guys don't actually offer any redemption.
Every president
Here,
is a war criminal.
I agree, but even Snopes says
Not my boy
it's a
Nixon.
mixture on if President Trump referred to it as the coronavirus as a hoax. No, he was referring to his preparation as a hoax, is what they were saying about his preparation.
Didn't I just say that? Did I not just clarify?
Then how
Are you
is
listening?
he politicizing it?
Because the moment he said that criticism of his preparation of the coronavirus
Yeah,
was
you guys
a
hadn't.
Democratic
You
hoax.
guys hadn't politicized it since then, right?
Grimace,
What do you
was
mean
that the
since
first?
then?
Was that
Oh,
the
they-
first
Pelosi
was that
quote.
the first case of someone politicizing the coronavirus?
What does it have to do with anything? Why can't you acknowledge the fact that the particular incident that we're talking about right now, Trump politicized it
Because
first? When
we're talking about who politicized what.
yeah, we're talking
How
about
do
Trump.
you know it was first? How do you know
Are
he
you
did
trying
it
to say-
first?
are
Because
you
he
trying to
didn't.
say
by the way.
Because when faced with the opportunity to unite the country on a growing pandemic that's been ravaging Asian countries, he said, this is a Democratic hoax. Instead of saying, yeah, we need to prepare. We're going to need masks. We're going to make
By the
sure
way,
our,
no, he
our
didn't.
medical
Can
professionals
I
are ready.
try to bridge the sides for a moment?
There's no
quickly.
side to bridge here.
No, I'm just 1 minute. 1 minute. Okay. So I think personally, I think it's important to recognize that while whether or not Trump may or may not have politicized it, whatever, that these things will inherently always be politicized. So in actuality, it doesn't matter like who politicized it first or why. And I think even something as simple as like medical recommendations, every single political party, every single political advocate or whatever has their doctors who generally use scientific conclusions to come to, or scientific methods to come to a different conclusion based on their values. Right, so there are different completely valid ways to deal with the pandemic, which are based on the things that you value. Right, so inherently it will always be politicized based on the values that you put forward.
Wait, how? Sorry, Dario. How so? If you're following a scientific method, it's a very concrete method. So how are you going to insert values into a process that is supposed to eliminate things like confirmation bias?
Sure. So there's a lot of different ways that science can be value driven or politicized. One very common one is just in the way that we decide what gets researched, right? Like what gets research funding. So if you fund one type of research or research into one field, you're essentially saying I value this field more than another field. So and the same goes for like repeat studies. Like generally, like a lot of science doesn't have repeat studies, which can like repeat the conclusions to find out if it was actually scientific or not or whatever. And a lot of the reason why is because it's just not economically viable to do so.
Well, aren't certain fields more valuable to study than others from an objective point of view?
Well, not from an objective. No, not objectively. No. Subjectively, yes, I would say.
There's something that I want to bring up that I think Obama did wrong, and that I think Trump continued to do wrong. Did anybody hear of Project Aura? It was a government program that was spun up about 13 years ago. I think it was right after SARS. It was the United States realizing that we had a shortage of ventilators and doing like a government contract in order to get ventilators built. So the contract got signed. It got given out to a company. They developed their prototypes. They sent the prototypes to the government. A large corporation got wind of it. They purchased the company. They said to the government, well, we can't produce the ventilators at the same price that you were going to get them before. The government gave them a little bit more money. Eventually, it was COVIDian. They canceled the contract. The contract got picked up by another entity, and it still went unfilled. They're still working on filling the contract right now, going into 2020. You can look it up. It was on New York Times. So Obama, in my opinion, did not hold these companies to get the ventilators produced. And I do actually think that we were probably low on our national stockpile of N95s and some other masks. However, when Donald Trump came into office, I think that it was then on him to replenish the stockpiles of N95s and other PPE that we had. And one of my largest criticisms of Donald Trump was he refused to use the DPA early enough. Very, very early on, he could have invoked the Defense Production Act and made sure that there was adequate amount of supplies for first responders, for sanitation workers, for whoever would need adequate PPE. Yet we're still now sending to some nursing homes or different facilities more or less garbage bags, and you can look in a lot of different places. So to me, there was really big mistakes made by both of the administrations.
Torn News, could the fact that we were dealing with the Great Recession in 2007, 2008 be part of the reason that we never fulfilled this contract?
It was 8 years. No, I don't accept that really.
It was. What do you mean it was 8 years? It was 8 years ago?
Yeah, the contract started 13 years ago.
During the Great Recession.
I'll link.
That's that math. 2 years short.
The Great Recession wasn't a single year.
No, I'm
aware. That's there's a starting point to it, right?
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question while he looks that up?
He put it in the chat. It's in the chat.
I don't have the chat up, and
I give it to you. I give it to you. Don't worry. I'll give it to you.
Great Recession.
I'll DM it to you. Okay. Hold on.
2007
okay.
to
May I
2009.
ask you a question? Do you think that health officials should be apolitical?
They should try their best to be, for the most part. I mean, everybody should try their best to be.
It is impossible.
Yeah, but they should
Health
try.
officials should be in touch with the average
It is
American.
Well, then wait. If it's impossible,
Let's be clear what we mean by apolitical.
Wait.
That's very ambiguous, right?
Yeah.
We mean like not
apolitical
polarized.
apolitical meaning.
American. I think health officials should be.
If you ask a health professional to deal with an issue from your perspective, you're getting the best generally, hopefully, you're getting the best option to handle the question that you asked them.
That's not true. I mean, you're right. On a national level, when it comes to politics and who gets appointed these positions, we're usually getting the person next in line for the job. Usually there's a lot of nepotism in Washington. Usually it's didn't earn it, but they were heavily political, especially the WHO and Fauci and Birx. Fauci and Birx, I will say, did a very good job of hiding their politics. The panels
What
that
I was
they
going to say
brought
about
on,
Fauci, he's actually Fauci worked under 6 presidents, so he found a way to work with.
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying Fauci and Birx actually did a great job of masking their politics.
What do you mean masking? Like they were secretly using
don't
their
know what
politics to push.
No, masking means that
Fauci is secretly a communist.
Apolitical, not making
So it
decisions
means
based on
that
their politics, because it sounds
so
like
it
you're saying
means
that
that
they
I-
Libertarian socialist.
If you would just stop for just 1 second, calm down, killer. It means that I don't know what his politics are. That's what masking is.
No, masking's when you say masking, you mean you're operating underneath a mask, right?
Right, because he obviously has politics, but I don't know if he's right or left.
But he's still operating with a mask.
But I mean, like, why
are we all?
So why does that inherently matter? Why does this inherently matter?
Is there anybody that can
You're
push back
not
on the...
apolitical if you're not apolitical in who you appoint to these boards, okay?
Wait. Oh my God! Is Fauci actually the leader of Antifa all along? Holy fuck! My mind.
Could maybe his positions that he was recommending to the United States could that just be what he was recommending? It didn't have any secret democratic.
You're misunderstanding me. You're misunderstanding me. I'm saying I don't know Fauci and Birx's politics. I know the WHO board's politics. I'm saying Fauci and Birx were professional.
Go ahead, Tori.
I have a couple questions. So Kayleigh McEnany, the new press secretary for the White House right now, was asked, "Are you going to be wearing a mask to the protest?" She said, "I am tested enough. I feel that I don't need to wear one. I'm not going to be wearing a mask." How do you all feel that she's coming out and saying, "No, I'm not going to be wearing a mask" in this big public audience?
My goddamn business.
Insanely hypocritical. I mean, like, ultimately, I don't know. It is the night and day switch from like this is a life and death issue where millions could die to now we all need to be in the streets by the thousands, and we're wearing masks, not social distancing, but no one can go to a restaurant, or businesses can't operate, but we can all march by the thousands, shoulder to shoulder, day after day, and that's just fine. And so it's that is politicization, that people are willing to care or not care about the virus or the pandemic based on what their politics dictate at the time. And as far as your question, yeah, I don't know. Obviously, that's complete BS. That I'm safe, so I don't need to wear a mask because I go out in massive public gatherings. That makes no sense.
Does Jennings or Jupiter or Archer?
Well, it's hypocrisy from the very beginning, as I've said, and health experts. I mean, I don't care what politics they hold. My thing is like, are they in touch with the average American or average citizen in the country?
Because you're saying it's coming from the beginning. Do you think that Fauci was told not to tell the public to wear masks? Because he just had an interview very recently where he came out and said, we didn't tell the public to wear masks early because we were afraid of a run on PPE for our medical professionals. And I actually don't know this question. I don't know if we're ever going to know. Was that Fauci deciding to say that, or was that Trump guiding Fauci to say that? And this is one that I really want to know the answer to.
I don't think it's either, to be honest. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't think so.
We don't know. We can't know the
controversy on the
answer.
mask. It's really controversy on the mask. My thing is like, are they in touch with the?
There's no controversy on the mask. You wear them, and you're less able to transmit the virus to other people.
Well, no, there is controversy.
There is controversy. That science isn't concluded on that. Actually,
It's not. There's different studies on these masks.
Sorry, we're talking about real
there's
science, not
there-
Republican science. Just so you know,
There's
all you got to do is look at the
And
there's
Holy
exceptions
shit.
to that. It's all up there. Don't be so willfully ignorant.
leftists are
There's also-
absurd. You've changed your science 50 times now.
I
Calm
also-
down and let him
it's
speak.
always been one. It's
Let him
always been
speak.
one.
Actually, no, it hasn't.
There was something that Brento mentioned earlier about trying to figure out are the protests going to be leading to an increase in COVID-19 transmission? And there's actually an article from the Wall Street Journal, and I'll read a part of it here. It said in Minnesota, where the police killing of George Floyd led to protests, there and across the country, 1.8% of test results have come back positive as of Monday among 3,200 protesters who were tested at community sites. The state's health department said an additional 8,500 Minnesota protesters have been tested through their healthcare providers or at other sites with a positivity rate of 0.99% so far. And I've been really trying to look at different cities that have been having large protests. And it does appear to be, if you wear masks, if you go out and protest and you're outdoors, it seems to be less transmitting. So I just wanted to give that to people. It's from the Wall Street Journal. I read center-right publications.
Well, see, my thing is like with these healthcare experts, are they actually in touch with the average American? When Fauci said that the economy should shut down for 12 to 18 months, I mean, I might be fine for him. He probably has a lot of money, a nice mansion. We can move the rooms for somebody like poor in a small apartment with a family. And, they like maybe are a waiter or waitress or have some type of a job where, they'll make a lot of money. That's not feasible. I felt like all sides, many issues were not taken into account, especially this new thing like mental health now people are talking about. Like, when you're like cooped up.
This is an argument based on emotion. Like he's making the descriptive argument that the economy needs to be shut down because we can't have all these people interacting with each other. It's not his place to make some sort of policy on how we should take care of the country. In the meantime, right? That's the president's role. That's the Senate and the House's role, right?
You could have fooled me, but can I ask you this? Why is it that Japan and Sweden are doing so well, and they didn't have these shutdowns?
Japan's not doing very well. Japan's
Yeah, it is.
No, Japan's upped their testing by 6 times. Remember that.
Cases will always grow as testing. It's not fair.
Wait, no, that's not fair. Okay, so we should stop testing. You're on that. What's the thing that's unfair? What's the thing that's unfair?
Calm down. Let him speak.
Okay, I didn't think you wanted to address that anyways.
Well, I was going to refute back to Jennings' your point about scientists being in touch with the average American. I don't want my scientists to be in touch with the average American because their scientists are in very niche fields that most Americans they don't do. Like it's. I would rather scientists be honest, be honest in their craft, and do discovery in a process that is objective to the best of their abilities, and to provide in times like this to provide the most accurate, honest answers that they can give to the public.
No, I'm not talking about random science. I'm not like Fauci, like those who actually political positions to make recommendations to the president and leaders on how to best do things.
Wait, so what has Fauci done that's been political? What has Fauci done that's been political? Just so I'm clear.
Saying that.
Nobody's saying that. Why is that point brought up?
I didn't say he's political. I said he's in a position where he can advise the president and other leaders on how to best guide the country as far as the pandemic.
So what's the whole speech about like scientists and people who are heads of their field in this case should be apolitical?
With me?
No, anybody. Archer's the one who made that point.
I wasn't talking about what I tried to say, which got
okay, so everybody agrees that Dr. Fauci is just doing his best in the wake of like a real like pandemic.
Sure, he's
we've never
doing
seen
fine.
before.
I don't think anyone's even talking about that though.
I wanted to say something to what you asked about Sweden. I just found a Business Insider article that's saying they actually only have 6.1% of the population to develop coronavirus antibodies. And it seems to be that they're trying to go for herd immunity isn't exactly working at the moment. And I do know that Japan is having to potentially re-lock down different places in Tokyo. I know that they're going through some strict regulations, as well as Beijing right now. If you've been keeping up to date on what's going on inside of China, they considered an explosion of like 140 cases inside of Beijing, and they've done canceling flights in and out of the city. They've canceled trains in and out of the city, and they're going through a massive lockdown to try to contain it from getting out. So it seems to be that there is reasons that some of these world governments are trying to prevent this outbreak from getting worse.
Yeah, I mean, just to bring some personal perspective. Just quickly,
please.
Just quickly to bring some perspective. I live in Denmark. The way that we've handled the pandemic is that we took a very hard line stance right off the bat. We locked everything down for almost 3 months. Locked all the gates into the country, all the borders, everything. 3 months, and now we're basically opening up again, and our cases are hitting rock bottom. We're doing amazing, and the economy is basically reopening now, and we're sort of slowly stimulating people's paychecks so that they can go out and spend money again. Compare that to Sweden, a country who has very similar demographics, like nowhere near the population density that Denmark has. I think Denmark has a 6 times higher population density. Sweden has 6 times higher deaths than Denmark has. It is insane how, like per capita, it is insane how bad Sweden is doing compared to Denmark, and all of that is in the extreme measures that were taken early and we're taking fast, and now we're basically like good to go again. We can travel, businesses are opening, you can get a haircut, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Does anybody believe that Trump actually got intelligence reports back in November that the coronavirus was a thing? Because I've seen.
Say it again. I was talking. I'm sorry.
I've seen that Trump got intel reports dating back to November that coronavirus was going to be a thing, and he got a very, very stern letter. I think it was January 24th or 26th that it seemed to be. So once he got my main contention with Trump at the moment right now is once he got that on the 24th or the 26th, I don't remember which date it was. That's when the DPA should have been used, the Defense Production Act. And I don't really have much else to say.
I mean, I know
Wait,
that
I've been wanting to say this for a while. Can I just please get this out? I was taught the whole subject is about the politics of COVID, right? That's what we're talking about. I was talking about the trust in our health officials. Fauci and Birx, I don't think they're Democrat or Republican. I don't know. That's what I like. It's why I trusted them from the beginning. I stayed home. I didn't do my job. And that's what's important. In Japan, the reason Japan isn't China or Australia after they reopened or us is because they trust their health officials. They have trust that they're apolitical. Whether they're right or wrong, they trust them. For people staying home. When people like the WHO, that's who I was talking about, people like our health advisory boards, they're very left-leaning. I'm sorry, but it's true. I immediately, because of how political we are, I stopped believing as much. This a political issue is because if coronavirus is as bad as everyone claims it is, the whole right will die, and we'll bring you with us because we don't believe anybody.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the whole problem with the right now and science in general. Since like things like climate change, that you don't trust science, you don't trust health officials, and it's kind of unavoidable at this point. So yeah, we acknowledge your inability to deal with facts. And
see how you deflect every single time.
Wait, what am I deflecting from? What specifically do you want me to answer?
Climate change. Change.
We're just talking about the right, not trusting scientists, right?
2 more minutes on this one. 2 more minutes,
and
then we're going to wrap it up.
Oh, you just don't get it. Okay, that's fine. Listen, the right in this country does not trust science. I don't think anybody would disagree with this, right? Like we have young Earth creationists, we have climate change deniers.
It's always Trump
I
or
would disagree
climate
that
change with you
it's specifically
people.
a right
Enough.
problem.
Listen, yeah, you
Why is
can't
it
actually
always
deal
the
with
right's
this.
fault?
You can't deal with what I'm saying. Why is
Yeah,
that?
because it's always the right's fault. Now, I mean, Torah News, I know that Taiwan tried to warn the World Health Organization in December that there is a coronavirus going on, and the World Health Organization ignored them. I'm not sure about this letter you was talking about that Trump got. So
I'll link you the one. I'll link you the one from the 24th in January, and then I'll try to
Okay.
find the one from prior.
Okay.
Sure. So, like, the right's inability to deal with science is the right's fault. Like, I would
What's
definitely.
the topic again?
The politicizing of COVID-19, just like the politicizing of climate change, has led all of you to distrust scientists. That's why you have somebody like Dr.
I don't
Fauci.
distrust science. It's, I
What's
mean,
the
like,
how
I'm on the
about
right of a
politicizing
your
Republican,
leaders
baby.
are- Wait,
I
you
don't
guys-
think
genders
anyone
are there,
should blind-
Hey, everybody, calm
Okay,
down for a
all
second.
right. So there we go. That's where we're gonna cut it off.
You guys are
right
I dislike
there.
science.
Jesus.
I
Right
hate,
there,
I hate
we're
science.
cutting it off.
I didn't realize I hit a sore spot.
Fuck you, science. This is just wizardry.
It's okay. All right, so we're gonna do our closing arguments, and we're gonna start with last username. Last username, your 2-minute closing arguments, please, sir.
Well, this has been a spectacular display of how ineffective our discussions about issues like this become. I don't know what it is. It's just we can't resist. So politicization. I understand what people are getting at now. Like we're talking really about polarization, right? About an issue instead of being able to talk in a nuanced, sort of specific way about a complex issue, it just becomes this very simple. Red versus blue, left versus right, or whatever, and everyone adopts a simplistic position. And that's absolutely true. That's what's happened. I've even seen libertarians do that. Libertarians who I respected, basically focusing 100% on just trying to convince people that the disease is not as severe as people are claiming. And there may be some truth to that, but it's weird how they're entirely focused on that and not focused on, it seems like there's all sorts of other interesting issues that come up around this, like the issues of personal responsibility. Like if we can't rely on government to deal with these issues, then it seems like we have to take on personal responsibility to deal with hygiene and not spreading disease to people. But I never hear any libertarians talking about that. I'm just disappointed that we can't talk about this issue and we can't trust our politicians, but we can't even really trust each other to talk about this in a straightforward, in an honest way. And I don't think it's a Republicans don't like science issue. I can come up with lots of examples of how the left is denies science when it's convenient for them. I don't think that's it. It's just something about the political culture, particularly in America, that just makes this impossible to talk about. So,
all right. Yeah. Very good. Archer, we're gonna start with you. Go ahead.
Last username put it perfectly, and I'll just add this part. You have to do this, okay? When Elon Musk fucking sends us to Mars to colonize it, get the fuck on that rocket because we hate fucking science.
All right, Brento.
As far as COVID, COVID's politicization, it's a deadly pandemic when you need it to be, and it's ignorable when it's not. And I guess both sides are on that. Although no, the right is generally saying that it is it's overblown. If anything, if not a hoax, then it's overblown. And the left, I think, is probably pretty happy about maybe the damage to the economy as far as it would reflect on Trump's re-elections. And I think the right is maybe a little bit more skeptical because they see the closing down of the economy as something that the left is okay with happening. And then, of course, when the protests happen and no one cares and everyone goes outside, they just say oh, screw it all. You guys don't care when it's politically convenient, so we won't either. I think that's generally the political assessment on both sides right now. I don't know. I think that's really what the split's about.
Okay, and Rafiq.
All right. George Floyd has COVID, and he got
You're breaking up again. You're breaking up.
Okay. George Floyd has COVID-19, and he gets a funeral casket in a crowded church while diagnosed with COVID who die alone with none of their loved ones by their sides to say farewell and no funerals. all per our healthcare experts. Here in New York City, Hasidic Jews have been catching hell. Recently, like a funeral in Brooklyn, people were just appalled and scared and outraged and called NYPD, the police, to break it up. But no one ever comment on how crowded George Floyd's funeral was. There was no social distancing. And per our governments, churches, all places of worship that are sanctuaries to many people were deemed non-essential. But our leaders told us that places of worship are essential if they have a funeral for a black man killed by a white cop. Ponder that and wondering why folks might be lackadaisical to social distancing and are no longer trusting of the leadership.
Okay. Okay. And we have Jupiter. Go ahead.
Rafiq kind of hit on something I was going to talk about, and you did it well. Speaking of politicizing COVID, Orthodox Jews and Hasids they've had their arcs welded shut by de Blasio. They've had weddings canceled. They've had schools having aids, like children's schools, Torah schools. And yet he also sent literal love letters to protesters who were shoulder and shoulder. I also think, go on last usernames. By the way, you have your cat out. I brought my dog up so you guys could see I wasn't ignoring. I was listening, but I had to feed her.
That's good. That's okay.
If you don't realize that last username is deeply true and troubling, then we can't talk. We're never going to agree. And we all say, "Oh, you're anti-science. No, you're anti-science. No, you're this, you're that." We're never going to agree. And these debates are important because the people in the middle are the only people we have left to persuade. Because like Grimace and Dario or me, or Rafiq, were probably pretty much firmly planted on our side. And so these debates seem less and less useful. I don't know. I mean, are we ever going to be able to deal with a pandemic when we can't even talk about science?
All right. Tori?
Okay, so one thing that we actually didn't talk about during this is what would we like to see our government do in another pandemic, if something were to happen like this. And I think that's actually, I think that, well, I didn't even think of bringing this up, but I think that when we get past this like initial conversation of it, I think that we should get back together and try to be like, hey, what would we want to happen if this virus comes up with this X percentage, with this like type of transmission rate, so on and so forth. Second, pretty much everything that last username said, I 100% agree with. First time that I've ever said that before. Thank you, last username.
Not the last.
And final thing that I did want to say, and something that has been scaring me about the politicization of this. We don't know entirely how this started. I don't know if this is a mystery that we're ever going to know. One thing that I do not like, however, is the continued egging on of China as like a government. I don't like the repetitive attacks of altering a name or calling it this or calling it that. I don't want to go to war with China, whether it be a hot war or a cold war. I would rather that certain things like this would be handled with diplomacy in private, rather than kind of like maybe baiting a foreign aggressor.
Okay. And Grimace?
Sure. So I kind of take issue with everybody saying that the country wasn't united after 9/11 under Bush. Like, if you could just look at the numbers, like all the way up until the time of the Iraq War, Bush was hitting like 90% approval ratings. Like, yeah, we were. That's what I'm saying. You guys did forget. Like, we were pretty united as a country at that part.
No, I said we were united.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we can all agree then that it is possible to not politicize this and to bring the country together to face a common foe, a common controversy in this case, right? Like, we could, if we had the right leaders in place, we could have had like a well-measured response to an incoming pandemic, but we didn't. And because of that, because of the initial politicization of this issue, it's impossible to actually unite us, because we have people saying wear masks, don't wear masks, go out in public, don't go out in public, and it's become this kind of core foundational issue with everybody that we'll never be able. We're just going to wait until the vaccine. That's what it's going to be, and you can see the cases spiking, and it's not necessarily because of the protests, because you look at the countries that are actually, it's actually the states that it's actually spiking in. It's states like Florida, Texas, and Arizona, who didn't necessarily have the biggest protests compared to other big cities like Seattle. But yeah, we can talk about science if you want. Like, we are talking about science for the most part. Like, the Republicans are able to join us. We're just waiting on you guys. The actual talking is going down.
Yeah, don't fall for Grimace Grimace does that every time. When he gives his closing arguments, he starts talking to you all like you're going to engage. Just ignore it. It's a bait. He's baiting. Okay. So if you see him ask a question and be quiet, just ignore it, because he does that every time. Okay. So he's not saying that to look for an answer. It's trickery on his part. Anyway, Dario, your turn.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. It seemed weird that in the Republican closing statement, we just jumped straight to identity politics for some reason. Weird how they always do that. Instead, I'll spend my time talking about values and integrity. I think protesting is important. One of the most important rights you can have. Protest the fuck out of the government and make sure that everybody do whatever you can to make your voice heard, pandemic or not. But please, I guess, keep yourself alive. Like, nobody wants more dead bodies. I would say the pandemic is inherently political, just like all other things the government does. The type of response, the way the response gets carried out, the values that take precedent for those responses. All of these things are political. Pretending like it isn't just dumbs down the conversation, I think. Trump is the elected leader. I would expect Trump to take his values, the values of his constituents, the people who elected him, and the appointing people who share these values, and lead with them in tangent. He should do that. That's democracy. But he should also face the backlash that's come with it when the results aren't what you want. Yeah.
Okay. So we had a poll go up, and it stated that, do you agree with the politicization of COVID-19? An overwhelming 80% said no. So now we're going to get off of this subject, and we're going to get on to our last subject for this panel, and that's dealing with CHAZ/CHOP. The Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, CHAZ, is an occupation protest and self-declared autonomous zone in the Capitol Hill neighborhood in Seattle, Washington. The zone, originally covering 6 city blocks in a park, was established on June 8, 2020 by protesters. CHAZ, now being renamed CHOP, is being portrayed as an ideal society or a new sort of utopia where there is no fear of the police or evil capitalism, a place where people help and support one another in class solidarity. However, after much research, I have found that CHAZ/CHOP is nothing like a utopia it pretends to be. Below are just a few examples of what I'm referring to. Those of you who are in the chat, just 2 exclamation point questions, and you'll see the citations. The governor of Washington doesn't mind CHAZ/CHOP being its own country in the middle of Seattle. Surprisingly, the mayor of Seattle doesn't mind either. As a matter of fact, she called the location a block party. This has caused Trump to threaten to shut down CHAZ since the mayor and governor won't intervene. The question is, what are your opinions about CHAZ/CHOP? And should Trump shut it down or leave it alone? Let's start off with Archer. Let's start off with him.
All right. So I don't find it surprising that a Democratic city in a Democratic city county and in a Democratic state seceded from the government partially. But I say let's respect CHAZs or CHUD or whatever you want to call it. Let's respect their sovereignty, okay? But with that respect to the sovereignty, I think it is now up to Trump, as being the commander-in-chief of the United States, to counteract this foreign rogue nation that has been that has been formed. I don't think anyone should die, but I in my perfect world, I think Trump should announce to them, you have a day to leave. If not, you're going to be charged with treason, because I don't think this standard that's spreading around to different cities around the United States is a good standard to set. That we want areas to be seceding from the union. That's all.
Okay, and let's start up with last username. Go ahead, your turn.
So I'm an anarchist, which means I believe in a society without government. This is not what I had in mind. I think calling us a block party or organized protest is far more accurate than calling it some sort of autonomous zone or utopian society or whatever. It's basically just a riot that has sort of seized an area. And even if it's peaceful now, I don't expect that to last much longer. I don't think anything good is going to come of this. I think it's eventually going to start to being a problem. There's already been like one murder yesterday, and the police had trouble getting to the victims because of all the protesters who were stopping them, who were just trying to get to this person who was bleeding in the street. So if you lived in this area or you had a business in this area and you were seeing your home or your property be insecure because of this, or having your livelihood destroyed, you'd be pretty pissed off. And really, this is not the kind of thing you can put up with in any kind of functioning society. So yeah, I think CHAZ is mostly just a joke, and it's probably going to have to be shut down eventually. But I think the authorities are just waiting for it to sort of fizzle out, so they don't have to go in and do anything that has bad optics.
Okay, Dario, your turn.
Yeah, so I guess also as an anarchist, I'm a very big fan of the concept of CHAZ. I think, unfortunately, CHAZ is nowhere near close to what that would entail, which seems to be why they changed the name. So CHOP, as it's now called, is an organized protest. As with all other protests, you can disagree with what they're protesting, but you should support the protests to whatever extent that they choose to do so. But hey, what if you like the concept of CHAZ or an autonomous zone, and how could you actually go about achieving that? And to what extent can you do that today? Well, actually, these exist like other places in the world in sustainable, peaceful ways. In Denmark, we have one. It's in the middle of, not in the middle, it's like on the outskirts of like Copenhagen, which is our capital city. And they collectively pay the government for electricity and water that they take from them, and they bought up the land that they reside on, and they have their own little society there. They mostly sustain themselves through tourism and inter I guess area trade, and it works out pretty well for both the Danish government and for the zone itself. Seems like people generally are pretty satisfied. There's always going to be stuff like crime and such, but it isn't like markedly different than the rest of Denmark.
What's it called?
It's called Christiania. And I think possibly something like that could exist in the United States if it was done under the correct conditions, in the correct place. I don't think just taking over government-run zones like blocks and then bearing them off is a good way to start. But I do support the protest. And
okay,
yeah.
All right, Grimace.
Sure. So those of you unfamiliar with Seattle and its residents, there's a big anarchist, libertarian type crowd who want to leave the union and become a new area called Cascadia. That would include Northern California, Oregon, Washington, and like all the way up the coast until Alaska. This, I'm guessing it's these kinds of kids who are running a place like this. Like that's obviously what they're trying to aim for. Like, but let's be honest, it's not going to get any further than it is right now. And I'm kind of upset with them for co-opting the Black Lives Matter protest into making some weird libertarian paradise that that they wish to live by. Like rebranding it to that protest zone, makes sense. That way, at least we can get everybody in except the police. But the reason we had responses from the mayor and the governor to this area is because the whole catalyzing event that brought about the creation of this area was the heavy-handed response of the police to the protests initially, where they were just lobbing tear gas indiscriminately, and eventually the protesters were like, "Fuck this," and they took over that block where the precinct was. So I'm guessing that the mayor and the governor's response is totally to do with not doing the same thing they did before, to just let it fizzle out. We don't need to enter into this conversation with force. It's all going to fall apart. These people will realize they'll have to get back to work. They'll have to get back to their loved ones. Et cetera, et cetera. And especially with this new violence breaking out inside. I think it's inevitable at this point. And to the people who are in there actually suffering underneath these, say they're at the risk of murder or rape or whatever coming out of there, I'll take the conservative take in this point. What you're doing, and everybody in the zone right there knows there's no police, and you're kind of operating at your own risk. And this is what a society would look like without police officers enforcing the law.
Okay, thank you. Back to being shadow banned again. Thanks, Twitch.
No. Oh
yeah. I'm used to it, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it comes with the territory being so good. So Turing, your turn. Go ahead.
First and foremost, I want to say, am I allowed to address Jeff Bezos? Do you mind? It's your
Yes,
platform,
yeah,
so I
sure,
don't
yeah,
mind.
absolutely.
Smoke that fool.
Jeff, you can fuck off. I don't understand why you keep de-indexing channels. You've done this to multiple channels before, and it's something that really just pisses me off. So I'm sorry that happened to you, Tree.
Yeah, I'm used to it now. It like I said, they do it to people who they're very intimidated by on the left and the right, and those of us who refuse to give him any money. So yeah, I'm used to this. It comes with the territory. So yeah.
That's the only thing that I don't get, because Act.tv, a channel friend of mine, they're unaffiliated.
Right.
They got de-indexed. You got de-indexed. I've been unaffiliated since November, and I have never been de-indexed. So
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't understand it. Back to the Chop and Chaz. I agree with everything that last username said again, and with Al Grimace again. I think that it is a dangerous co-opting of an actual protest that's been taking place. I think that I think if there's one person that's very happy about Chop and Chaz, it's Donald Trump. Think about how this is going to be spun from the conservative angle about another democratic city that cannot handle its people, that just lets it go to reckless abandon, so on and so forth. So I think that he is probably sitting there with his feet kicked up on his desk, clapping for joy, just being like, you know what? All right, let it happen. And then what's he now saying that he's going to run his campaign on? I'm the law and order president. I'm the one that's going to make America great again. I'm going to bring the economy back to what it was before. So, I think that Chop co-opted Black Lives Matter, and now I think that Donald Trump is going to co-opt Chop and use it for his political goals.
Okay, and Jupiter, go ahead. Your turn.
I actually agree with a lot of basically everything that was said. This isn't a protest, and I have no idea about that place in Denmark. Sounds cool. In Seattle, it's it's one of the most expensive cities in the country. My sister works there and lives there with her husband. They're, we're working class people, but she, has a tiny little thing about it is the tax-paying residents of Seattle are already fed up with the feces and the homelessness and the drug use and the open air. But call this a protest. It's a land grab. I mean, they've taken over multiple city blocks. And problem with the policing issue, I was just watching this video maybe this morning or last night of an ambulance and CHAZ, the warlord of CHAZ, Chop, like the people that don't agree with us in the French Revolution, as they say. And CHAZ was screaming, I think it was CHAZ, at the ambulance drivers who refused to come into Chop because there were stabbings or shootings and both and rapes. And the ambulances were not cleared to go in there. Ambulance drivers' lives matter as well. as Black Lives, and everyone else. And they're not going to go into a really dangerous, horrible situation if they can't have some backup. I mean, they're passing out guns in China. So I think this is not a protest. This is not a protest. And I think that the people that I've seen, the shop owners that are scared to death and having their buildings burnt down, just either. It's a hostile take.
Okay. Rafiq.
Everybody has their own views of what a utopia or what a paradise is. There may be written on utopia, or for those of us who believe in the fall biblical metaphysical, there are, like I said, many novels about utopias, and they all prove that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Okay, as far as CHAZ and CHOP, to me, this seems like these are people refuse to live in reality or accept reality of how, and who don't know how to function in nature, knows how the natural world. So, me, CHAZ CHOP is a shit show that's going the path of the Lord of the Flies. I mean, yes, the mainstream media, the politicians have been calling it a street fair and a farmer's market. They don't even have farm goods, as we've seen from that pathetic community garden. And as somebody mentioned, a black man was recently shot there. I mean, Black lives don't matter if they're in CHAZ and chopped. I mean, I say let it self-destruct. Let them have their safe space of drugs, theft. No, excuse me. It's unintended donations, and violence. Because where communist equality rings, it's equality where everybody is equally dirt poor. That's it.
All right. And then we have Brento with the opening arguments. 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I've been to CHAZ twice. I went once in the middle of the week, and then I went once on the weekend. And on the weekend, it really is functioning like a block party. In Seattle, there's a Pride block party in Capitol Hill, just actually down the street from where CHAZ is right now, and that is kind of like, it's sort of how everyone's treating it. And a lot of people in CHAZ don't like that. They're like, this is a protest, not a party. But it's kind of a party, at least when everyone's allowed to go to it. But as far as like, should Trump shut it down, there's no single worst thing that Trump could ever possibly do. If Trump even like started to make any sort of move towards shutting it down, it would only probably multiply it and energize it for another month. If anyone would take any kind of action, it would have to be both the mayor and the police department to actually move back into the precinct. But just like everyone's saying, it's already dying down. There's no like established order. There's no leadership. There's no way it's going to expand. People are already leaving it. And, there's obviously kind of like violence and sort of crime starting to set in. And the only reason it was ever even possible to establish something like this is because all the businesses in the area are shut down because of Corona, right? So once that starts back up, the businesses the businesses and the residents who are already complaining are not going to stand having like 6 blocks of the city occupied by people who are making demands such as abolish the police. That's one of the demands. Some of the demands are things like, defund the police by 50%, which is also not going to happen. So yeah, it's already fizzling out. There's no true direction. The demands are not going to be met, and it's not self-sustaining. It can't possibly sustain itself. So it just has to eventually go away. Everyone is just waiting patiently.
Okay.
While they're in their homes. So.
All right. So this is the free form round. I want to actually start this off with the free form round, and then you guys can jump in with something that Torn News has said is very important. And I don't know if Dario or Grimace are realizing this, but do you, because, you guys are not really looking at what is being said on the right, but so many people are looking at this going like, oh my God, this is what happens when Democrats run everything. And Trump will use this, and he is using this to actually instoke fear into moderates and centrists into not voting for Biden come November of this year. And my question to you all is, do you not understand that you are playing right into his hands by actually saying, oh, this is a good thing, this is a good thing? Because basically you're actually playing right where he wants you to play, once you play in.
So there's a very simple answer to this. First off, I haven't seen Biden come out in big support of CHAZ or CHOP or whatever. So there is a false equivalency there. It's not like Biden is being like, yeah, hell yeah, anarchism, whatever. It's not a democratic thing. It's a people's thing, protesting the violence that the police force has done against people of color in United States. Second off, I mean, if you want to see how this is playing out, just look at Trump's numbers. Trump is getting crushed more and more every single day that passes. Trump is losing in approval rating. Trump is getting crushed more in swing states. Trump is losing progressively more in the popular vote. So I would say right now, things are looking pretty good for the Democrats and how Democrats... No, I don't think people give a fuck about CHAZ outside of like this, but like this Twitch space.
Can I interrupt here? Hold on. Can I interrupt here? Dario, the last time you brought that up, the conservatives that was on this panel, they didn't know anything in reference to polls. And when you challenged them in reference to the polls, I was really disappointed that they did not come out with the actual facts to dispute you on that. And so therefore, I actually in the Discord, I put in 9 polls that showed that Hillary Clinton was indeed they were favoring Hillary Clinton to win. It's right in there if you want to see it. Now, of course,
wait, I'm sorry. Wait. Is Hillary Clinton?
Here we go. This is one of two.
Or is it Biden?
They do one of these two excuses. They do one of these
you don't know statistics. You don't know statistics. Come on, hit me with it. Hillary was also ahead of Trump. Therefore, dude,
I'm not bringing that up at all.
This has nothing to do with Hillary. People say one of two things. You either say, number one, Hillary Clinton's not running, or you say, well, the way they were polling it was right. Okay, and I didn't say she was. That's not what Tree's saying, obviously. She's saying the pollsters, the same ones that told us Hillary was going to win, are now the same pollsters telling us Biden is way ahead. Do you understand that?
Yeah. Do you understand how statistics work? Do you understand how statistics work? Obviously not. Listen, this is the way statistics...
Trump. Everything is Trump.
Hold on. I'm going to jump back in because where Tree was trying to lead the conversation is like, I actually watch about an hour of Fox every day, maybe an hour and a half. I've been trying to watch Fox and Friends. I've been watching The Five. I've been watching The Angle with Laura Ingraham. I've been watching the Tucker Carlson. I've been watching Hannity. This is being spun by the right to say we are going to run a law and order campaign. We are going to restore justice. We are going to let you keep your guns. We're going to let you speak. So all that, like, I'm not good at polls. I don't put the most into polls. They do have a valid purpose. I'm just not very good with them. My only thing that I was trying to say is this is going to be very rallying for the base, for Trump, and especially the way it's being played in media right now.
Yeah, so like I would say like the Democratic responses, they've probably done a really bad job of like letting everyone know that like this is because we don't want to come in with a heavy hand. Like the last time we did a heavy hand by the police, because this is a response to a heavy hand. We had people tear down the police district and set up an autonomous zone. If they come in with a heavy hand again, what do you guys think is going to happen? Isn't the actual good response is just wait until it fizzles out? Like, does anybody disagree with that? Do you think we should bring in the army to eliminate these people?
Yeah. What are you suggesting?
No.
Is this the big government conservatives back at it again? Is this
we need to
big government conservatism back at it again?
Guard. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that's all I've heard. That's like Trump is going to come in with like the what for drone strikes. I don't understand like exactly what you're going with. That
Obama? No, we don't do that.
We haven't done a good job.
You encapsulate.
bomb the shit out of fucking China. That's exactly my
If
point.
they were going to wait for it, that's just going to make them like dig their heels in further. We're just being very laissez-faire with it. Like,
so
who
we
cares?
bomb them, Grimace.
They're all going to go back to
this whole entire time.
It's a good example of the kind of like the thinking behind things like defund the police and abolish the police, and it's like we're going to set up an autonomous zone. It's not autonomous. It's 6 blocks, and it's going to fail. It's just
Nobody's saying it's an autonomous.
And everybody knows that.
No,
It was literally
they're calling it autonomous.
No, it wasn't the name in the first 2 days. After that, it was an organized protest. Dude, fucking
People are so good at
listen, I don't
making up
give
new
a fuck.
words.
Listen,
in Seattle. What the fuck,
dude, I don't give a fuck. Dude, I don't give a fuck.
Come on, you got to be fair.
No.
He's right there.
I talked to 20 people currently in CHAZ, okay, or CHOP, or whatever you want to call it. This is what they say. Like, I don't give a fuck about one person.
Hold on,
visiting
Dario,
there.
are you serious? Brento lives in Seattle, and you're going.
Yes, I have 20 friends. I have 20 friends currently in CHOP. Okay.
That makes sense.
I have black friends.
You're bringing up the anecdotal argument. You're the one saying I have one person on here who is going on there, and I'm saying I know 20 people going there. Do you understand the difference, Jupiter? Do you understand the difference? Do you understand the difference? Do you understand the difference, Jupiter? I'm just asking. Do you understand?
Calm down. You get so unsettled.
Can I?
Oh yeah.
Can I ask a quick, unrelated question? Does anybody live in a city in the United States and you have had a massive amount of uptick in fireworks going off? I live in North Philadelphia, and every single night.
I saw the tweet.
Well, it's getting close to 4th of July.
Yes, same thing in New York. Yes.
No, but it's been. But it's only in. So okay, so I live.
You live in North Philly? Really?
Yeah.
How do you
I live in
North Philly.
I'm in
You go to
Brewery Town.
Temple University?
I'm in Pittsburgh.
No, I'm in Brewery Town in North Philly.
Just trying to
here too.
Don't fall for it, Torn News.
You live in North Philadelphia?
Yeah,
Really?
I'm on the edge of
right.
Strawberry, Mansion and Brewery Town.
Wow, I'm surprised you're still alive. Okay.
It's here too.
He stays.
It's not- well-
He stays inside. Rafik. He doesn't really. If I'm not mistaken.
I go to
Wow,
decent.
so-
There's a lot of beautiful murals north of me from here. But no, I was just asking because like there's been something weird happening with all the fireworks that have been going on in different cities, and it's coming from I don't know. It seemed weird, so I wanted to know if anybody else.
Yeah. It's also doing it. It's down here in Georgia too. Yeah.
So
here in
these
New
are
York, we got them.
So these are the demands of CHOP, and it isn't communism, okay? These are the demand. Rent control, the reversal of gentrification policies, the abolition or defunding of police, which is a very common talking point right now, funding of community health, and releasing prisoners serving time for marijuana-related offenses or resisting arrest.
Dario, what's the end-all goal of defunding police? Are there multiple goals that you want to complete after defunding the?
Can I answer, Dario?
Sure.
So it's actually kind of reimagining what policing would be and trying to remove some of the burden from police officers and shift it into other areas of service response. So rather than have police deal with every type of response that needs to be given, you would have different agencies that would go for mental health, or you would have a different agency that would go for maybe like a domestic dispute or something. Because if let's say that you're dealing with like mental health issues, and then you see like a badge coming and you see the baton and like cuffs and so on and so forth, it can like send you down into like a further fugue or like dissociative state. So it's actually about removing some of the responsibility away from police and shifting that funding into, or divesting the funding into different services that would include better social services, better mental health services, better public education, better access to food. Where I live, it's a horrible food desert. And like these would be some of the goals of it. So it's divest
How
and
much
reverse.
responsibility do you want to take away from the police as an end-all goal?
He just described it.
But see, that's not what I'm hearing. I'm from ANCAP. I'm hearing ANCAP. All
Neither.
cops are bad. Fuck the police. I'm not here like we just want to.
Cab.
Let's just spend your entire day on Twitter. Let's be honest.
Hold on.
Well, it's.
Listen,
Sorry,
if you hear
I-
ACAB every single day, you spend way too much time on
Oh, I
Twitter.
said spray.
No, I did not say every day. I'm saying
Wait,
the messages.
all right.
I've been
So you
hearing.
guys listen. You guys listen. May I say one thing? You'll be okay. Point
on,
of
Jupiter.
come on, Jupiter.
Talk about-
No, when I'm saying ACAB and all that, yeah, that's what they're spray painting everywhere. If you wanted to call it divest, certain amounts of money from the police, you should have said that. They didn't say that. Once they realized how unpopular, they called it they started redirecting. But the real
Wait, who is they? Who is they? Just out of curiosity.
Black Lives
who is the
Matter, it's
group
on their
that you're talking
website.
about?
Black Lives Matter, it's on their website.
Okay,
Now, please.
well, Black Lives Matter isn't running this.
You know what happens when you divert funds from police departments? You get shit humans who have no training, and they end up hurting people. It happens every single time. France did the same thing, and they regretted it. That's why they regressed to their former policy. Taking funds away from the police makes police less trained, therefore less able to deal with violent offenders. I stress situation.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, Jupiter. Just quickly, Grimace, Jupiter. You might have had Touring News muted because he actually just explained what the defunding would do. I don't know if you heard.
I heard
that.
that.
Oh, so why didn't you address any of the things that he said?
I just said if you divert funds from the police, we need more funding for police, not less.
Yeah, you're
well,
just,
no,
you're,
no.
You're not
So you would
understanding.
divert. Yeah, so you would divert the funds
Social
into
work
other
and all of
departments,
that
which
is
would be
nonsense.
social work.
It's so clearly nonsense.
As an anarchist,
It's a farce.
is this part of incrementalism? Are you trying to? What I'm trying to ask is there a bigger goal as an anarchist? Is there a bigger goal you're trying to achieve by starting off defunding the police?
Well, if you want to talk about anarchism, I'm not a big fan of the state in general. Like, I want to abolish the state. I mean, but I don't think we're talking about anarchism here. We're talking about how to make people's lives better and how to save
no. I get very wary when anarcho. I'm not saying I don't know if you're an anarcho-communist, but I get very concerned when anarcho-communists say defund the police. Okay, is that a first step towards abolishing the police? Because I'm also seeing, coincidentally, anarcho-communists who are also saying ACAB, fuck the police, completely abolish.
Okay, yeah. And I've spent a lot of panel shows talking against those people and saying that is a terrible thing to say, and it doesn't make any sense to say to scream ACAB every single time you can.
Yeah, sorry, I'm sorry, I'm going to butt in here. This is why we're really bad with these kind of phrases. Like, even like a phrase like ACAB is fucking terrible, because when we say something like defund the police, it gets completely like misinterpreted as to what's actually going on, right? Because what we really mean is reform the police, to take some of their roles, put it into a new agency. We can even call
Why
it
don't
like
you say that?
I don't.
I don't decide what people
we didn't
say.
realize
I
you were
can
so
only
dense,
decide
and we
what I
keep
say.
giving you the benefit of the doubt.
What about dense? No, I take you literally. Fund the police. You reform the police.
Take the money we
reform the
for
police.
dealing with everything that the police do.
Name call
change
and
out
bring
the
up climate
role.
change.
Jupiter.
It's nonsense.
That money
it's all nonsense.
away,
Defund these
and that's
nuts.
taking away the money. That's defunding and putting that money into a separate agency. Like, that's what it means.
So that's called diverting, darling. Google
Jupiter,
yes,
Jupiter,
when you
Jupiter,
divert
I do want to jump in here because
when you divert funds, you're defunding one agency. That's what it is. That's what we're talking about.
So you asked the question, why not, like, say, reform? So Minneapolis actually tried to go through a lot of the reforms. They tried to put their police officers through the bias training. They tried to say that they were going to have body cameras for everybody. And they tried to go through a lot of the different reforms. And it didn't work for the people in Minneapolis. And this is why the tactics... I actually don't.
Police unions.
Okay, yeah,
So here's a question. Why would these other agencies be better at those particular responsibilities than the police? Like,
because they're trained, because they're sorry.
It's multifold.
Is there what?
It's multifold. I'm going to say it. One is you're not going to have that response that I said. Like, let's say that you and I are having a dispute, and a cop comes, or like a civil servant comes to deal with it. We're both going to have one reaction to like a heavily armed police officer coming, or a person who's coming to actually come in to diffuse the situation. So that would be.
Okay, but a person who's diffusing the situation.
I have to speak from an experienced former police officer. When I don't think no one should be able, and I'm gonna give you a scenario where I actually responded as a police officer, where a man was beating up on his girlfriend and in front of the children that they had together, and he kept knocking her unconscious, and he kept playing Russian roulette with a revolver. The little boy, who's 9 years old, called 911 and says, "Daddy has a gun to mommy's head." I don't think I want any civilian to come to that scene and deal with that except for police officers.
Yeah, the thing is, like, when there's a dangerous situation, we can't sort of like pick and choose exactly the right kind of person to come. Like, if I call 911 because some guy is, I don't know, in my store doing something dangerous with swinging a sword around, like, is the dispatcher going to ask, okay, well, is he mentally ill or not? Because then, like, I don't know, like, all I know is this is dangerous and I need someone to deal with this.
We could have
fall underneath the police.
We could have 611 for mental health issues. We could have 711 before.
But how do I know which to call, right? Like, all I know is that there's
it's so hard.
Yeah, it is really hard. Like, I don't know why he's swinging the sword around.
Wait. Oh my God, is it that hard? We laugh.
It's perfect sense. Like, I mean, why don't you take his question seriously? He's actually asking a genuine question.
Sure. So violence, 911. Obviously, people aren't imminent like threat to die. If it's like some crazy guy like bothering people on the street, like maybe you don't need to call 911. Maybe you can dial 811 or some other number like that. Or we can always call 911, and then the operator is trained to distingush,
but that's
by
what
herself.
we have now.
That's
literally what we have.
There's a
one option to send police officers.
And that
That's what I'm
operator
talking
is
about.
supposed to take the time to look through a fucking handbook and connect that call to a very niche operation force.
Okay,
Like, it just seems way more efficient.
If there is if there is an emergency right now happening, obviously you would be like a violent emergency. Obviously, you would be directed to the police. Nobody.
Wait, hold on. Mr. Anarchist, Dario, want to make an entire other bureaucracy.
Can you define anarchism for me?
Yes, I can. The absence of a state.
Okay.
Love how arrogant you
it's not anarchism, but that's fine.
Everything you say is, oh, ha ha ha. Can you laugh?
Okay, listen.
Trump,
ask your
climate
question,
change.
buddy.
Can you be
Ask
quiet?
Ask your question.
Okay, Mr. Anarchist, you're telling me you want an entire other state-run bureaucracy, right? 711 and 811, just so we can divert those funds from the police to a new social work type system. It doesn't even make sense. Everything the government does is fucked.
You're right.
Let me finish.
You're actually completely right. You're actually completely
you guys
right.
want to put your foot on everyone, but be quiet. If you really think that it makes more sense to create an entire other bureaucracy, an entire other form of policing, community guideline type police, it does to put more funds. Tree and someone like Jocko Willink, people like that, they've actually been officers, military people. They understand high stress situations. Jocko Willink says police officers need to train 1/5 of the year. 1/5 of all of their time needs to be towards training. That way, they don't kill people. They're better trained under stress. What you're saying is take more money away from that and put it towards social. Please. Go ahead, because you're emojiing. Go ahead, please. Or be it for me to not abide the emoji.
Yeah, sure. So let me explain. So when you have a medical emergency, do you just call the cops? You're like, hey, there's somebody bleeding here, or there's somebody who had their legs sawn off. Do you just call the cops right away, or do you want the medical professional? Or do you want the medical professional? Yeah, do you want the medical professional? Do you understand? Wait, nobody's advocating for a different number. Yeah. Did I say different numbers, or was that Grimace?
Grimace did.
Yeah. So I'm not Grimace, right? I'm Dario.
And I also said it didn't have to be a union.
I
It would be
know,
an operator deciding which agency.
What they do now. It's what they
exactly. That's what Dario's saying.
Yes, nobody's saying anything different. Nobody's saying anything different. All we're saying is
bad guys at the same time they don't send cops.
Okay. Let me know when you're done.
No, please.
Okay.
Please.
Yeah, sure. So
is there a purpose? Is there a purpose in having a general scope to, like, when you need an emergency? Is there a person? Is there a purpose? Why do you say no?
Wait. Nobody is saying that suddenly new things would pop up. All everybody's saying is that the funding for these things could be different.
That would go away. Sorry. I don't know.
All that is being said.
Clarification. Sorry.
Yeah. Sure.
So you are saying to create new, some sort of new agencies, whether that's like for a mental health unit.
Well, depends. Depends if there like some places you might even need a new agency. You could just have mental health professionals at the ready currently there.
So
I mean,
when
I don't see
when
how that
someone
would
calls
address
911, when
problems
someone
with
calls
the police,
911, does that operator then go to that agency?
Well, depending on the call, if there is like an immediate emergency that sounds violent or whatever, obviously you would call the cops.
Yeah, but you just said there wasn't any agencies being added.
I just said you would call the cops if there's a violent
I don't see how
emergency.
that's different than what we have now. Like right now, the police will come if
Right.
there's a crime being committed or if there's some sort of like violent, like some danger to the public.
That's
I don't see-
username. That's
that's
it's
exact-
because
no,
it's
no, no,
not
sorry.
different.
It's the exact same thing. No, you're right. It's the exact same thing. The operator will just have more choices. That's all it is. It's a fire. You know,
Well, but the operator
But
chooses
we need
a
more
choice.
choices.
let's call the fucking ambulance. If it's a violent person, we call the police. If it's just somebody suffering from a mental breakdown who needs attention, maybe we should send a social worker who's prepared with that. And if you want to give them guns, well, just give them guns if that's what you're doing. Have them go through the
So
same.
you want to arm ambulance drivers and paramedics?
As far as I know, police
It's
don't
You
go.
don't. You do because you're concerned about things like this.
Tori,
Well,
Okay, so-
listen, let's say you make a mental health agency, okay, and this agency is not armed. They are here to help the mental health of whatever crisis is going on. What if that person is fucking armed and is ready to kill?
Okay.
You just said the operator just fucking sent the mental health agency out to go handle that call.
Sure. No, absolutely.
No,
So
no,
these
she's
people would
dead.
be
She
trained.
died.
So
She
these
got
people
shot.
would be trained.
The health
These
person's
people will be
dead.
trained just like the police officers in the cases like this, and they'll be able to deal with these kind of violent situations based on the same thing. And they'll be able to call for backup. Except they're specialized in mental health. Like that's the person we call.
Okay, so
and if they deem that the
But how would they not end
situation
up
needs
being
more
just like
attention,
police? If
they
can
would
deal
call
with
the
violent
regular police,
situations,
right?
That means
we're
they need
specializing
weapons
things.
and they need combat training, and
They
you know,
could've
and they.
just-
So like I
form of
understand.
mental health.
They could just send the police.
Just so we
with the social
specialize
workers.
people. Exactly.
Wait.
Because it's-
Someone specialized in mental health. Specialized
not
in what form
specialized.
of mental health?
I don't know, generic mental health, dealing with mentally unstable
You're right.
people.
Okay, just like cops are.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's what we're talking about. Cops should be more specialized in what they do. I don't understand. How does everybody not understand this? It's so easy. You would probably fucking agree if you
Because
could
you're
just
not
get your
explaining
fucking
it
minds
clearly.
around it.
Hey, that's it. Okay, look.
Sorry.
So the cops.
No, you're right.
Gonna stop
No,
that
I'm
close.
sorry,
There's a
sorry.
violent
I'm not
situation,
explaining.
So the
whether they're
idea-
mentally ill or not. You need someone who can come and do what the police do, i.e., use violence to stop this person from doing it. If whether they know they can deal with mental health
Use
or not is another
violence.
issue, but they're gonna have to
Stop
do
violence.
basically everything that the police can do. Yeah, and stop violence.
There is
You can't have like a mental health person come if they're dealing with violent people. They have to be, have all these sort of authority to use force that the police have to use to
Sure,
stop it.
there is-
Otherwise, you're just putting those
that's fine,
people in
that
huge
works.
danger, right?
What?
So all
That's
you're talking about is
100%.
basically
I mean,
something that has basically all the power.
We
the
don't want to
police have,
centralize
plus
all
extra
this power
training.
underneath one agency.
which case-
That's what this whole thing is about.
Can I
But
get
you're still
Brento
centralizing it
What
in-
does
in
Brento
one
Box
agency.
and Rafik think?
Hold on.
I mean,
Torin News has been trying to get in here, and I want him to get an opportunity to go ahead and get in there.
Did anybody read the Trump executive order where he said that he's going to have like another person go out with police or something? I'm not perfectly familiar on this. Has anybody read it?
No.
Can you link it?
It's there's
Please.
No.
a base understanding of it, but
I'll look it up. Next person.
Okay.
hate it.
Rafik, were you talking too? I want to make sure you get an opportunity to get in here too.
Yeah, I haven't read that, but no, this sounding this thing like adding layers of bureaucracy, I think is going to ruin efficiency. That's what it sounds like. And with this talk of police reforms that are happening in different cities, there have been members of police resigning or sick. Things have happened like in Atlanta. I think here in New York, man, just people just like police officers being frustrated, just being demonized. Blatantly, just leave, and I think that's problems because like this weekend in New York, there was like a lot of shootings, and also Minneapolis. This police reform, it sounds good on paper, but having all these different bureaucracies and agencies, and where the sends out decide, okay, I need to call the police. That's going to more time for the police to get there, and the problem could escalate. So I don't know. This sounds good on paper, but I don't think it's add more bureaucracies to 911 and layers and all that stuff. So,
You know what? I'm on board with that, Rafiq. I actually think we should even get rid of more bureaucracies. Actually, why don't we just have the government man that just does all the government things, and then we can get rid of all the bureaucracies.
Makes sense. Let's just call the
Yeah.
government.
You ever just
all
give
the
a
government
straightforward answer, man?
He's giving you. Oh my god.
All straw men. Yeah, no, it's all
He's giving
straw
you.
men. It's like,
He's testing the idea with a hypothetical.
do you
That's what he's
understand- do you
doing.
understand?
Why is it so
He's
hard to
making it-
a hypothetical?
Oh, I
is
don't
like
understand,
a single
because that's
person
your only
who tests your
response.
idea
It is a
they don't need
ridiculous
to
do you not
idea.
understand? It's like, no, I do.
You're taking a statement of specializing people to do more specialized roles instead of having a catch-all person, and you're saying you're
Trained by
putting that
whom?
under the banner of
Trained by
bureaucracy.
whom, anarchist? Trained by whom, anarchist?
I don't understand what you're asking me.
Who would
Train-
train these specialized people?
I don't know.
State!
Whoever
The
trains
state! You're not an anarchist! You're a communist! God damn it!
Wait, that's a pivot right there. You're saying he can't have
I'm
an
the one
opinion on
pivoting.
how the government's run right now? Is that what
Wait,
you're saying,
are
Mr.
you-
Libertarian?
Wait, I mean, listen. I
What
understand.
are you
I understand.
talking?
You're adding
under-
bureaucracy. You're adding states. Adding
Listen,
state
listen.
powers.
I understand.
Oh, God.
I understand you don't know what anarchism means, and apparently you don't know how to abstract
Hans,
like
listen to me.
political
Enough with the
ideas
nonsense. Get
versus
to your
like
point.
what exists right
No
now.
more platitudes. No
My
more
point-
insults. What are
yeah,
you saying?
My point is that the way that society exists right now isn't the society that I want. That doesn't mean that I cannot propose changes within the society that exists right now to make it better.
Is that a nod to getting rid of all hierarchies?
No, that was a nod to the logical fallacy that Jupiter was participating in by going ad hom on him and trying to dismiss his opinion because of who he is and not what he actually said.
Premise, you talking about ad hominem is the most absurd thing. Now, anyway,
Exactly.
can I shut the fuck up and
Hey,
let Brento box
great-
talk?
Great example.
Look,
Thank you for
hold on.
showing us, Jupiter.
I mean, the point is, you guys are saying like we need, and a lot of people are saying like, well, it would be better if we had someone who wasn't the police or didn't have a gun to respond to things like domestic disputes. But the point is, like, at the point where someone is calling the police, it's already at the point where the police need to intervene. If someone's going to call, someone for domestic disputes, I'm not like a therapist, but something like that needs to happen beforehand. Like that has to be preemptive stuff, and that'd be good to have a resource for that. But at the point where anyone feels like they need to call 911, you're not sending like a counselor. So it would be good, sure, there would be great if there were some funds in government for these types of things. And you could say, well, we should defund the police. And when we say defund the police, we actually mean fund other programs. But like I think most people, when they say defund the police, you can explain it that way, or then you could like massage it and be like, here's what it's actually supposed to be. But really, people are calling to defund the police because they want the police defunded, because they want less police presence and kind of a smaller police force.
Well,
So
that
when you
is
say, like-
that.
Hold on, Torin. Go ahead, Torin.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, some
Yeah, right. I know. Well, I just want to finish it. Well, Grimace, you were just saying that, like, we're I don't know why we're bad at messaging. Well, I think you're bad at messaging, or I think you get a lot of bad messages because people are actually saying what they want, and it's not something palatable that most people agree with, and so then people have to walk it back and massage it.
Yeah, this is what happens when you think of your opposing political ideology are the people who exist on Twitter. Yeah, you're never going to get a clear answer.
Torin, go ahead.
Yeah, somewhere it was in a Kayleigh McEnany speech. I don't know if it was one of her press conferences. I don't entirely remember where it was, but she said that somewhere within the Trump executive order, it stipulated that when a police officer has to respond to domestic violence or to DUIs or to mental health or to homeless, there would be an additional person that would go with them that would be trained and specialized in like de-escalating of situation. And if that is actually going to be what they're doing, I actually think that that's a good step in the right direction of sending out an additional person with the officer to kind of be like almost like the citizen police to go with them. I don't entirely believe them. I'm having a hard time finding it in the executive order. I'm trying to do like my research behind it here.
I didn't see. I read it.
That
I
makes
read.
a lot of
I read
sense.
the executive order. I didn't see it in there, Torin.
Right, but
I mean, that idea makes sense to me, but
this was directly
certainly
out of
require
my-
more funding,
Oh, okay.
not less, right?
It was written by
Oh
Mitch
yeah, it's going
McConnell
to
and
require
was
more
nonsense.
funding. Yeah,
It was
that's true.
bullshit.
Last username.
They said in the bill that you can't use chokeholds unless
Yeah.
Your life is in danger. So it's bullshit. The whole thing is just platitudes. The bill is nonsense.
All right, did the bill mention qualified immunity?
Oh, that was
No, it didn't. No,
Colorado.
that's
No,
not
that
in
was
there.
Colorado that did that.
Yeah, they
Colorado
did that in the.
that.
And that's going to get
Okay.
challenged, and it's going to get overturned. I mean, you can see the writings on the wall for that because
Well, it should.
yeah. So we're gonna do. I don't want to go over. So we'll do 2 more minutes of a free form, and then we'll do the closing rounds, and then we'll do one hypothetical, and then we'll end on a good note, so everybody can be all happy and positive. So I want to get back to the question at hand. The question is, should Trump shut down CHAZ? So I want you all to focus on that question or leave it alone for the next 2 to 3 minutes. So just let's focus on that, get off the police, and let's focus on that.
No, he shouldn't.
Absolutely, you should.
No, that would be
Yeah,
a
he should.
ridiculous thing to do, and that would just
Why?
Why?
This is
Archer. That would reinvigorate CHAZ, and every single person in Seattle who was there originally, and people from other states would immediately flood in and say, "Oh yeah, get us the fuck out!" Like it would.
What examples are you pulling from, please?
That's just how they operate. That's the whole reason it's there.
That's not an example of how that.
That's how it started in the first
operate.
place. Is that better? That's how it started in the first place with like
Oh,
with,
that's
with,
not
with
how it
heavy-handed
started.
response. Yeah, it happened. It happened because the Seattle Police Department were heavy-handed in their response to the protest. So they set up this whole protest zone, and they took down the precinct. That's why it's all there. That's why it's like
Seattle
that.
Seattle Police. Please drop it in the chat where Seattle Police were too brutal.
I'm
They-
sorry,
they-
Ruben.
they-
No,
they-
I
they-
can't
they-
about the dynamics.
Here's the
Yeah.
thing. Listen to me. If there were minorities like the Uyghurs in China being held in concentration camps. No. Well, right. You can't follow things if you can't scream Trump.
Okay, concentration camps. I got it. I'm fine. Concentration
No.
camps. Let's keep going.
Uyghurs are being held right.
The U.S.
Uyghur
has
Muslims-
concentration camps.
Right, of course. The leftists
Well,
always
and
do this.
also,
It's not-
but also supposedly,
you guys
Donald Trump
realize
said-
you look weak when you can't hear
Well,
opinions.
Actually, no,
The
Jim-
problem
China
is
calls it
it doesn't matter.
You
It
brought up
doesn't.
about Xinjiang, so I want to answer to the Uyghurs. Supposedly, whether or not you believe John Bolton, he did say that when Trump was speaking to Xi Jinping, Donald Trump gave Xi
Why are
Jinping.
you bringing up Trump?
Oh, you just brought. Wait a
What I'm
minute. Wait a
talking
minute.
about.
Please let me
Wait.
finish. You brought up the Uyghurs, so I want to bring up something that Donald
But
Trump.
I wasn't bringing them up in any regard. But the fact that there
Hold
is
on, hold on.
minority
I'm going to make my point.
discrimination in a way that
Read-
I'm in the middle
read-
of talking. Oh, just 1 second. It's a 2-second point, and I won't talk the rest of the time. I don't care if would escalate the situation that's currently happening. It's wrong. They've literally kidnapped 6 city blocks in Seattle. Understand that? Like, it doesn't matter if it would escalate or not. You can't just do that. They're bullying these people. Store owners are literally held hostage right now. I don't care if it would escalate or not. And the leftists, I just want everyone to know, if you can't see, the leftists right now who can't do anything but scream Trump are now yet again emojiing. That's literally all they have.
He's
No, but
he's
really.
trying to trigger you.
Yeah.
He's
Sorry,
trying to-
I'm waiting for the concentration
Just-
camp.
hold
I'm
on,
waiting
he's
for
trying to
how the
trigger you.
concentration
So
camp
just
has anything to do with this.
look. It's a new thing he's doing. Just ignore it. Just ignore it. Just go ahead.
I don't
Listen,
care.
I'm
No,
practicing
saying
my
it's like-
free speech. I'm just using my free speech.
Thanks. I understand the whole
you're trying-
concentration camp reference now.
Go
Thank
ahead,
you.
go ahead, Jupiter. And then I want to hear from Turing.
Oh, they're fine. But my point in the concentration camp thing is it would escalate things if people were to liberate the concentration camps of the Uyghurs in China. It would escalate things. At the same time, you'd be having people in chains and bondage and slavery. Oh, it would escalate things.
You're
But
saying that people in the CHAZ you can make the comparison to people in concentration
absolutely,
camps?
yes.
You
No,
can
not
walk in and out
concentration
of that
camps, but
place
in-
no problem, right? There's nobody
in the
stopping
stores?
people from leaving.
Can I
store owners?
walk into Chud with a MAGA hat on?
Wait. Do you think they're like
Yes,
kidnapped right
people have
now?
done that.
Yeah,
Wait,
you
They
can.
have not.
You can.
And they got fucked up.
I literally watched a conservative do that. Didn't get fucked up.
why?
Wait a minute, minute, hold on. I gave you
Walking in
links.
broad
I
daylight,
gave
MAGA hat
What
on.
did they have to guard?
Wait a minute. No, I've seen a black woman walking there talking about, being pro-life, and she got called a coon. I mean, that Christian got headlocked. And
Dario, I
black
sent
man
you a
was
link.
assaulted.
I sent you a link of them actually
I
taking her
understand.
life away.
I understand you've sent.
Honest.
I also have different videos as well that I've watched.
Hey, produce
and
those
I
receipts.
talk
Go
to
ahead, do
people
it.
on the
Let me
ground.
see them in the
Let's get
chat.
those receipts.
Produce
because
those
we have
receipts.
ours.
Produce those
Sure,
receipts.
Get a receipt.
To pretend
I
like
get a
they were
receipt.
harassed if they had a MAGA hat on in chat.
Yeah,
You know
listen, being harassed and being like forcefully locked up against your will are two dramatically different things. To use that analogy is pretty.
They are. No, it's
maybe you're
actually
just
very
bad with
similar. It's an
analogies. I'm
injustice.
sorry.
It's an injustice.
And injustice. Okay, well, injustice. Well, you could have used a better injustice than the government locking up people against their will and starving them and using their labor.
Wait. Then let me ask you: if I
Where?
were to liberate the
We're
concentration
talking about
camps in China and it escalated tensions with America and China, would I be wrong?
I have no. What does this have to do with anything?
It's injustice.
You're talking about the interaction between two governments, and you're comparing it to the interaction between people.
Oh, I'm saying if Trump were to liberate CHAZ, which he should, because people live there, and they're literally taking over people's businesses and livelihoods. They've literally trapped people there. And
Trapped people.
Wait, are these?
people are being raped.
You can walk out of there easily. You can go. You can lobby the government to take care of you. It's fine. Like, it's not as big of a deal as you think it is.
Hey, Dario,
it's not anywhere comparable to
Dario,
the Uyghurs
what
in
is the
China.
timestamp on this? Are you serious? You sent a 17-minute. You sent a 17-minute video, and
There's lots more.
No, I don't see no. Come on, you're being disingenuous right here. There's no
I'll
order
link you
here.
in more. I'll link you in more.
Tree, with 10 minutes left to go. Here's 2 hours. I got you.
Wait, I don't know what you're asking me. I literally said I've seen multiple conservatives filming on the ground that are being
somebody with Trump hat.
completely
Not only
unharmed.
does this video does not prove your point, it shows nobody with a Trump hat on. It shows
Do you
no
understand?
conservative.
Do you
I get a
understand
Trump
what
hat.
I said? I said literally conservatives can walk in and out, criticize the camps, criticize CHAZ, criticize everything they're doing, walk out completely unharmed.
What times? Okay, you
Yes,
know what?
I have
Wait,
also
wait,
seen
wait,
conservatives
No,
on
because I don't
stream
wanna
wearing Trump
prolong
hats.
this.
Conservatives identify.
I can link you a 4-hour stream of somebody filming from within.
I'll give
where
you a
I've definitely-
4-hour stream in your face, but I watch
I
the
didn't
Christian
prepare the
Christian
timestamps. Listen, I'll link it to you afterwards.
You're so
What do you want?
disingenuous.
What do you want? I didn't prepare a fucking timestamp for
Well, you shouldn't
Trump
have made a
hats seen
claim
in
if
chat.
you can't prove it, because unlike other panels, we want you to prove
Are you
stuff over
kidding me?
here.
Are you kidding me, Tree? You're literally saying to me, "Hey, I should have thought about every single thing that people were gonna bring up during the panel."
Here's what. No. This is what I don't like about people on the left. You say shit and nobody challenges you. And I'm sorry, but I do that to the left. I do that to the right as well. If you hold on. I do that to everyone. If you make a claim, I expect you to prove it. So if you can't prove it, don't make the claim. And the thing about it is that like I said, I was disappointed in the conservatives not being able to basically prove their claim the last time. So it's like, no, that's how it's going to be on my panel. But look, we got to go. We're going to go to 2 minutes closing. So because we're running over time, but I'm gonna let you guys get your last word in before we do the final closing argument. Go ahead.
Well, CHAZ's example, what's it like to have no police?
Agreed.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
Civil
true.
servants.
True.
Yeah, but then there was some theft, and I saw Raz went and used violence against some dude. But
Yeah, I've also seen
Utopia.
Yeah, no, it absolutely isn't as much as the libertarians want to think it is. I agree. And to go on top of that, the fact that we have open carry here in Washington is leading to problems like this, because like the fact that we can have so many people armed in this area, everybody's armed. Like imagine if they couldn't open carry. They're handing out guns in CHAZ, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you need open carry to defend yourself against people in CHAZ with guns. brought
Sure.
in by
Even more of a
Democrats.
fucking reason to bring in the army than that shit.
Let's
What
just
the
keep
fuck?
yeah, exactly. Let's keep escalating the
They're
violence. It
handing
definitely
out
makes
guns.
sense.
That's hella fucking
No,
illegal.
Archer, let's just give all the military the guns. Let's take it from the people.
Right?
Crash and burn. I say let CHAZ crash and burn, self-destruct. That's the
Exactly. No,
tactic.
I absolutely agree with you, Rafik.
No, yeah, actually, we
Wow.
should spend way more money on military and just send in the military to deal with all these problems instead. Actually,
Well, I
defund
mean-
the police and just strengthen the military. Every time you call 911, it just dials into the military, and they'll just fucking jet
Bring in the
people
fucking Apache helicopters.
Jones
Yeah.
strikes it.
Fucking
Well, no,
Apache
the
helicopters.
Can
The
I ask
issue
you
is
guys?
that
Wait,
the mayor-
wait.
the mayor
So
thinks
that
it's
mock position, whose position? Does anyone raise your hand if you believe what he said? Increase
About
funds
what?
for the military. Raise your hand.
That
Strong
was-
man. Raise
oh
your
my
hand.
God. That was a joke. You know that, right?
No. But you do it every time. Go ahead. Hey, Chank, shut up, please. Raise your hand if you believe in upgrading the funds for the military.
Jupiter, you do
In what
understand
sense?
how a joke works, right?
What are you
Slowly,
talking
yeah.
about? There are
Wait,
reasons to
Jupiter.
increase it, not to
Man,
deal
you're
with
corny.
chat.
Let me give you a hint.
Okay,
Once
hold on.
people start
Talking
talking about Apache helicopters and
God.
like
Okay,
bombing
so just-
different
okay,
things,
okay.
it's usually a
We're
joke,
gonna
my
do-
dude.
we-
I don't know.
We gotta.
I understand humor is the strong suit on the right, but this is pathetic, my dude.
We're gonna do closing arguments.
It was serious. You
No, I understand humor isn't a thing on the right
his
generally, but
wife
this is
beater's getting. He's all
pathetic.
mad.
This is
You were
pathetic.
serious,
You'll be all right.
He thought you were serious.
All right. You'll be okay. You'll be all right.
All right, we're gonna do
Please
closing arguments. I'm gonna start with Rafik this time. Go ahead and do your 2-minute closing argument.
Okay, I like to say that. See, this really wouldn't have been an issue if the mayor does not view this as a block party and if the governor was so clueless about what's going on. I mean, they're both Democrats. I mean, here in New York City, the mayor and the governor are both Democrats. They don't get along, but at least our governor knows what the heck is going on in the major city and the state. Okay? So this would not be an issue if these city and state officials would have cracked down on this. So I just say if they fine with it being going on, let it go on and crash and burn. But one most important question that I need to ask the CHAZ Chop folks: where are my reparations? No, because there was a video where they actually were talking about, okay, give every black person $10, and none of those avocado toast communists stepped up. Okay, I want reparations, and no, don't say it needs to come from government because it will actually be taxpayer money, taking taxpayer money from people of color to give back to people of color, which would be redundant. No, I know they may not have jobs, but I'm sure their parents got a trust fund or something that they can like dip into and give me my reparations. Put up or shut up. To the white left and all the mommy dearest trying to save us colored folk.
All right, Brento.
Yeah, CHAZ just it's not self-sustaining. It can only exist because everything's shut down mostly right now. It's gonna fizzle out. The worst thing that Trump could possibly do is step in because that would just completely re-energize it. And they'd be happy to do everything they could to support it or just be there as another protest against Trump taking any kind of action. So no, Trump shouldn't do it. It should fall to the mayor, the police department, or Jay Inslee, the governor of the state. And otherwise it's just going to slowly fall apart. Like the whole point of it being anarchist or, autonomous is impossible. So.
Okay, Archer.
Yeah, I fundamentally believe that there's two types of nations, one being a Chad nation and one being a Chud nation. If you believe that America is a Chad, okay, you're not going to let these Chuds take over the land that is rightfully owned by America. So listen, this is a rogue nation, a rogue Chad. Oh, sorry, not Chad, Chud nation. All right, we're better than this. Come on, guys. Let's send in the National Guard. And do it peacefully. But if they do not leave, I think these people are treasonous, just like the Democrats who seceded from the South in before the Civil War and during.
All right, Jupiter.
Into the National Guard, number one, because this is absurd. I mean, this is all a joke. I'm sorry, we can all debate. This is a joke. Enough already. These are children. They're homeless or they're children. They're either young, rich, white kids or their children. That's it. That's who's in CHUD or CHAZ or CHOP. Don't care. They're out there talking about the French Revolution. Number one, they'd be the first one getting the guillotine, okay, in the revolution. They would. Number two, you really want the National Guard called in. My dog, Maggie the dog, I volunteer her. She'll get the job done. But yeah, I mean, it's time. People look bad. We look bad to other countries. Not that I care. We look bad to ourselves. This is absurd. Figure it out. Enough.
Okay, last username.
CHAZ/CHOP is basically a joke. It has nothing to do with real anarchy or any kind of idea of what an actual anarchist society is like. It just doesn't. The only reason that that authorities are not coming in to break it up is because all, tons of public attention focused on it, and it would be really, really bad optics. So they're waiting for it to fizzle out, in which case they'll sort of quietly dismantle it and get it back to normal, which is probably the smart thing to do. They definitely should not send in the National Guard. That's atrocious. Would be an appalling misuse of the military, despite what my supposedly libertarian teammate here says. That would be really bad. So, yeah, I don't know what more to say about it. It's basically just a joke, and it's going to go away, and it's not going to change anything.
Okay. Turing.
Man, I think that Brento is bringing up an interesting position that if you do use the National Guard to disassemble the CHOP, are you going to have more demonstrations swell in response to it? I would probably lean on trying to de-escalate and dispel the people, and because as Dario brought up with Christiana, they bought the land, they're paying for the electricity, they're paying for the water, and so on and so forth. This does appear to be a land grab of individuals, and I think that we need to be aware that if this was a land grab of individuals that may be a part of what Proud Boys or Boogaloo or whatever you want to say, well, it's it would not go too well. So this is a very not good situation. I'd like to kind of see it dispersed.
Okay.
Or we can have time, because there's something that I do want to talk about, like dealing with like budgets going into next year. Is there going to be a time for like a final after that part, or?
Say that again, Turing.
I'll be 30 seconds. So
Go ahead.
I've been looking at municipal and state budgets across the country. Ohio already cut their 2021 budget by 20% across the board to every sector. Washington State is not giving raises to any publicly funded employees that make over $53,000 a year, and they're asking for people to take furloughs. Philadelphia is $749 million behind on a $4.9 billion budget. The MTA in New York City is an $8.3 billion budget deficit. So I'm bringing up all these things that are happening to say that there is going to be more unemployment next year. There is going to be more people being hungry, and this is going to lead to an uptick in crime. I don't think the best way to go about it is through more policing, but it's a legitimate $1 trillion budget shortfall to municipal and state governments going into fiscal year 2021, and this is going to cause a lot more civil unrest,
Yes.
and I just think that people should know about this.
Okay.
Yes.
Grimace.
Sure. So touring news, like Tree does give us an outro. So you're gonna have to think of a new one now.
Wait, hold on. And by the way, be prepared for Grimace to do his Grimace thing. Okay. So when he says something, and be quiet, don't respond. Go ahead, Grimace.
Sure. Yeah, so concentration camps, Jupiter. I think you can agree. Like in hindsight, that was a terrible analogy. But as far as the protest zone goes, just so I'm clear, like I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think the ACAB shit is a good. I don't think these are good things. I'm just making sure that when you guys are arguing for against defund the police, you guys are mischaracterizing it. And I thought it was on me to clarify the actual position. So for me, reforming the police would be good. Maybe specializing them a bit more. We had different suggestions I could go out. There's lots of things we could do to make the police force better. And right now we have to admit that the union is like way too strong, and it's sponsored by the government, which is something we can't have. So for the most part, as far as the zone goes itself, I actually agree with the conservatives. We're most of the conservatives, except for Warhawk Archer up there, that we should just wait for
realist.
Don't fall for it, Archer. Don't fall for it.
We should just wait for this to fizzle out. Yeah, we should just wait for this to fizzle out. Let emotions die down. And just like the other conservatives on this board, like we're in agreement with the governor and the mayor in this case. So, yeah, that's my closing argument.
All right, Dario.
Okay. So, as somebody who believes in freedom and the right to protest, I'm a strong supporter of doing whatever you can to get the message out. Talking about the riots or the violence that happens in some very rare cases during the protests ignores the vast majority of violence and escalation that has been performed by the side of the police. But this isn't a new thing. This has been happening constantly all around the world for years on end. The only difference is that now we have the ability to film it. The countless hours of footage and disruption that the police have engaged in, the clearing out of zones for fucking photo shoots where Trump can brandish a Bible he's never read to an audience of people who don't give a fuck is insane. It's insane to look at these individual instances and not talk about the systemic oppression that black people face disproportionately right now in the United States. And in terms of just like listening to slogans like defund the police and making up your mind without listening to the people who are actually talking about this. I mean, I expect this from the average person, but we're on a fucking political podcast. You should at least know what you're arguing against. Oh yeah, and like I definitely don't agree with sending in the National Guard peacefully.
Wow.
Who's that?
That's Jupiter. That's Jupiter.
Mute your mic for me. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Dario. You have time. Go ahead. Continue.
No, yeah, I just wanted to say that I don't really think you can send the National Guard in peacefully, as somebody suggested.
Okay.
Warhawk.
Okay, got it. All right, guys. All right, so I did a poll, and the poll said, should Trump shut down CHAZ CHOP or leave it alone? And overwhelmingly, 84% stated leave it alone. So we're going to end it on a good note. I want to let you know that this one last part is free for all. You can, it's just fun and games. It's just one hypothetical question that I'm going to ask all of you. And you don't have to worry about being timed. You can interrupt each other. I just want us to have fun and leave. I just want to say, out of all my panels, this has been the most dick measuring panel I have ever had on Twitch. So with that being said, here's a hypothetical. So, and this goes to everyone. So I'm going to ask one by one, and we're going to start with Dario on this one, and then we're going to go around. Okay. All right. Here's a hypothetical. If you were writing a story for Marvel Comics, who here on this panel would you write as a hero, and who on this panel would you write as a villain? And you cannot include me in your story. Go ahead, Dario.
Wait, can I include myself?
Yes.
Okay. You know, that would be boring. Actually, the hero will probably be last username. He would be a Logic Man, jumping down from the sky, just reading fucking pages of his latest fucking book that he's just read on stream. Like, whenever there's an issue in town, he would just swoop down and just start reading passages and then asking logical questions or opposing arguments. I think that would be pretty cool. That'd be like a good way to go about things. In terms of villain, fuck, who would be a villain? Probably Archer, because he really likes sending. Because he was the only one who really enjoyed sending in the military into things. I mean, I can see that turning into a villain pretty quickly.
Machiavellian.
All right, Grimace, your turn.
Sure, I gotta say, you took my villain, Dario. Like, I had the Warhawk Archer up there ready to go as like a bad guy. But okay, so let's have Touring News. I know Touring News. He's the most good faith person I know. So we're going to put him as the hero, and we're going to pit against him Jupiter, who is anti-science Republican. And they're going to have a huge conflict over many volumes over accepting the scientific method. And I can't wait. I'm tuning in. Actually, I'm going to write this up and send it off to a publisher. I think this is a good way to go about it.
All right, Touring, your turn.
Yeah, Jupiter, anytime that you do want to talk, I'm 100% down. Villain for the moment. I'm sorry to do this to you, Rafik, but I might have to give you the villain at the moment here. I think that you're very, very intelligent, and I think that you're very good at choosing things to be said in a certain way to elicit certain reactions. And I think that if we actually sat down to talk about different issues and substance on policies, I think that we would probably agree more. Hero, who would the hero be? Man, tonight, last username. Holy shit. Yeah, you win. Last username. Good job.
All right. And last username, who would be your villain and who would be your hero?
I feel like I barely said anything, but I appreciate all the kudos. My hero is going to be Dario for keeping his cool and taking the high road when people were treating him like crap. And sticking with it, which is more than I can say for myself. Man, the villain is Jupiter for his many nefarious plots to derail the train of conversation. Yeah, there you go.
All right, Jupiter, who's your hero and who's your villain?
No, I'm kind of a Rafik hero kind of guy. Threw him $10, by the way, for his reparations request. That's fair.
Thanks.
I don't know. I don't really see many real villains. I hate commies.
Conservatives accepting government handouts.
Villains. I mean, if it's a Marvel movie, they're probably real nasty and evil humans. I don't know. I'm a Rafik guy.
Let's
hero.
go, Jupiter.
But you have to give a villain. So if Rafik is a hero, who's the villain?
I'll take the villain here. Climate change is real, Jupiter. You can label me the hero, and we can talk about this someday.
Believe it. What is the climate change thing?
Wait,
you're the villain.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Did I misunderstand?
You're the villain now. You're the villain.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Did I misunderstand? Did you have Rafik as the villain?
Oh, Rafik's the hero.
Okay, so you had Rafik as... I thought so. Okay, so you had Rafik as a hero, and who's the villain?
Touring.
Okay,
he's a racist. His superpower is racist.
All right, Rafik
against climate change deniers. Deny climate change.
Rafik.
I don't know. Let me see. Villain. I'm a little torn. I don't know. That symbol behind off grimace could kind of be villainous. Okay, I don't know if that's a word.
And who's your hero?
Who's my hero? Jupiter.
Okay. All right. Brito, who's your villain and who's your hero?
I think I'd probably make Dario the villain. And yes, there you go, Dario. It's perfect. Dario would come up with a lot of schemes, and be like, "Follow me," and he'd get gangs of people together, and it would never work out. And I think last username would be the hero, and he would be the guy who just casually explains to people why you should not do that and why it doesn't make any sense, and you should just be, ANCAP. So.
All right, and last but not least, Archer. Who would be your hero and who would be your villain?
All right, so I'm proposing a Justice League here. Okay, I'm saying, Brento Box, you look like Superman right now with that little thing coming down there. So I'm definitely have to go with Brento Box as the hero, and definitely last username. You got that hair too. You got the attitude. You had the strength in the debate today, and for villains, Dario, because you do look like a James Bond villain. and you sidekick.
He's got an accent.
No, you know what? I have to say that
That's a compliment.
The technique that Dario used. Oh, hold on a second. Let me let Rafik in. I was it was funny and I had to laugh. There was no way I could not laugh when he was using those fucking emotes. I'd never seen him use that before, and it was triggering the shit out of Jupiter. And that, I'm gonna tell you, when I go back, I'm gonna watch that part YouTube back because I was like, I watched it. I was like, what the hell is that on his screen? And he was like, I'm going to shut up because of the emote guy down there in bottom. And it was just like the funniest thing ever. It was just so funny. So, okay, guys. So I want to thank you. See, there we go again. I want to thank all of you all for coming by. I really, really appreciate it. It was not boring whatsoever. So, definitely going to have you guys come back. And by the way, as you all noticed, saying I really favor, touring news. I respect his opinion so much. And, I'm actually going to say you're the VIP of the debate today, panel today, touring news. So thank you so much for coming out. And I hope, my, audience really take heed to your warning and what's about to come and for the economy in the near future. So, with that being said, I'm going to let you all leave and shout out your channel before you go. So let's start off with the I always leave the conservatives last, so I'm going to let them go out first. So we're going to start with Archer. Archer, go ahead and shout out your channel, and I want to thank you so much for coming by. And by the way, the new mic, perfect, by the way.
Yeah, so temporarily it's going to be Archer CA, but I'm thinking about changing to Archer Warhawk. So, if you can't find me at Archer CA, find me at Archer Warhawk.
Man.
Stream Twitch.
All right, Brento, sorry that you had some bad internet problems, but I'm glad it worked out.
Thank you. Apologize. Hey everyone, BrentoBox. You can follow me at the link at twitch.tv/BrentoBox. Pretty conservative takes. Try and be centrist though. And hop on over and hop in Discord if you want to chat.
Okay. And Rafiq? By the way, Rafiq, I got to give you some money because I have some super chats where you asked for reparations, and two people, I kid you not, I got two people gave me super chats for you. So I gotta take that money off of my bank account and give it to you. So I just want to let you know that. So go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Wow. Well, yes, I am on Twitter and Instagram. My handles are Jennings333. Sometimes politics, local stuff. Like sometimes politics, local stuff, music, just like different subjects. And touring news. Yeah, you're right about this incoming economic downfall from this. Not just the protests, but the lockdowns, just in general. All this stuff is still more to come, unfortunately.
All right. And Jupiter, thank you so much, our newcomer here. Go ahead and shout yourself out, and make sure you, and by the way, we've been spamming your YouTube channel in the link in the chat along with everybody else. Thank you so much for coming by. I really appreciate you.
That's my pleasure. I've loved you forever. You know that. This was awesome. And to you guys, I mean, friend or foe, this was fun. I had a blast. Up till midnight on my girlfriend's birthday, so that was 30 minutes ago. I still haven't said happy birthday. Channel is on Twitter. It's Jupiter with an underscore, and I do a podcast on Jupiter at Jupiter on YouTube with my heterosexual life mate who happens to be not heterosexual. Our cat's gay ? And this is a real privilege. Thank you.
Jupiter, where's the underscore? Is it at the end of your name?
Yeah, on Twitter it is, yeah.
All right, and last username, the most beloved person here on this panel with the big hair. You almost got an afro there, last username. I swear I'm digging the hair, by the way, so go ahead.
Yeah, it definitely borders on afro when the weather's sufficient. Mm-hmm. But it's going away, I have to warn you. Don't get too attached.
Okay.
I'm last underscore username on Twitch. Come check it out. Sure. I do a lot of, I'm an anarcho-capitalist, which is a sort of extreme libertarian. And we read books, we discuss, do a lot of panels like this, reaction to videos, and the usual stuff. So come check it out if you're interested in that kind of thing, or if you're not and you want to be convinced.
And Argrims, let me just say this. You were in rare form. I thoroughly enjoyed you having me laughing.
Thank you.
And I'm used to you by now, but I want to say you were very strong in the beginning, and you just started shitting on everybody. It was just funny because I like the antagonistic viewpoint that you take, but to me, you guys are so funny sometimes. I just like sitting here just watching. But anyway, good job. Thank you so much for coming by. Go ahead and shout your channel out.
Sure. So like Tree, like part of the reason I started streaming was to work on my public speaking. I know I've told you this before, but if you like look at like our first panel together where you invited me up to now, you can see a gigantic difference.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate you.
Yeah.
For helping me in that case. I'm still saying a lot and I'm stuttering a little bit, but it's pretty good.
No, you didn't start at all this time. On this panel? On this panel?
Yeah.
No. I didn't see it at all. It's a completely different and you guys improved but this was good. I from a right winger being neutral, I'm looking at your performance and it was like your opening arguments on the first on social on the on cancel culture was really, really good. So kudos to you. I just want to give you congrats so you can keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And going along with that, with the whole public speaking thing, I had an agreement with Brento we made yesterday. And I said, Brento, if I get out of hand and I start getting angry and start yelling, just like pop in and stop me. He didn't. He didn't at this end of the panel. And we knew. Like, you even noticed it. I did good on the first two, but the last one I was just like a yelling, raving maniac. So, Brento, jeez.
You guys were all raving, man. You guys
Brento was not your good wingman there, Grimace. He was not your good wingman. Oh, man. I swear. You should have got
And I got one more thing. I also noticed the dogs that were put in here. And I got to say, you guys have great choices in dogs. Jupiter, that was a border collie, right? That you have? Yeah. Archer, you also have a border collie?
Greatest dog ever.
Yeah, I have one too, but she's busy putting in the sheep right now. I can't bring her up here. But yeah, thanks again for having me on, Tree. I appreciate the panel. It was pretty good. The topics were really good.
Yeah. And of course, one of my favorite streamers here at Touring News. I really thank you so much for coming by. Definitely going to invite you in the future as well. I think you really represent your arguments, and in addition to bringing in new information, it's going to teach me as well as my audience. So please feel free to definitely give out your channel. We're also spamming everybody's channel in the chat, so you all can go follow them and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and also follow them on Twitch. Go ahead, YouTube.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation. I think that a lot of people, I think all of us actually had good points on all of the different topics. I don't agree with everybody at all times. If you ever want to come hang out with me, I read a lot of newspapers. I focus a lot on like international policy, foreign affairs. Twitch.tv/touring news. You can usually catch me at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I try to read like 5 or 6 newspapers on the stream in the mornings.
Okay. And last but not least, Dario, y'all know I got a special place in my heart for Dario. I give him a lot of shit, but that's because I do adore him. I really do. And the shit he pulled today was so fucking entertaining. But it was, I don't know where that came from, but yeah. Okay, I'm gonna let it pass. But anyway, Dario, go ahead and shout yourself out.
Listen, if you listened to me speak today, you just have to know that this is usually not what I speak about. Usually my single issue that I speak about politically is that I want to abolish all guns and firearms, and I want to bring back fucking swords. Sword fighting should be normalized. Imagine if everybody could take the streets with their preference of sword, be it a scimitar, be it a katana. You can choose a long sword, you can choose any kind of sword, dude. And fights would just be so much more entertaining. That's what I'm fighting for.
To piggyback on what Dario said super quick, what's the law in Seattle? 2 people are allowed to fight if they agree to it, correct?
Yeah, if they agree to it.
Okay.
And the cops can have to watch. They have to watch and referee.
Really? That is actually.
I did not know that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, not actually being a referee. They just have to let them finish fighting.
Wow.
Also, to piggyback off what Dario said, the bad guy, I take it back. He's the villain. He's the villain.
Listen, I'm coming. Listen, I'm coming for your guns, and I'm giving you all a katana instead. Okay, that is the world that I want to see.
The immortal words of Randy Jackson. It's a no for me, dog.
Swords for all. Swords for all.
All right, guys.
No, wait. Before I leave, Tree, just in the spirit of the cancel culture topic, can we free Lego Head at some point? I really want to see you talk to Lego.
No, I mean, no. He's never apologized. He is very. He insists that he revealed my personal private emails to get content, and he's not apologetic about it. And the fact that he defends his very immoral actions. When you do some fucked up shit and you are actually standing by it, nah, I don't have. I could see if he was a real Christian and really apologized, but he's very arrogant about what that. So he can kiss my black ass. That will never happen until he actually apologized for doing something so evil, trying to get a hate mob against me by going to all of these round tables, reading out my personal email, and then having it posted all over Twitter, Facebook, and Discord. So no, I'm not going to put up with that. But you know, thanks for asking.
Aww.
All right, so here we go.
Stir the shit pot, Oreo. Holy shit.
All right, guys. So thank you so much.
I'm just looking for the content.
Yeah, I know, but no, I don't keep my enemies around. I know people say keep your enemies close and keep your friends close and your enemies closer. I don't. No, your enemies are closer. They can stab you in the back and cut your throat.
Bingo.
No.
They're lying.
No, I keep
your enemies who made that fucking saying.
Yeah, exactly. I keep my enemies far away from me. Okay. All right, then. And yeah, I know Dario's starting some shit. All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming by. And yeah, I expect to get a thank you email from me tomorrow. I mean, a DM tomorrow. Okay. Bye bye.